anger is a bad emotion to have.
Nobody said that
Especially
anger is a bad emotion to have. There are ways you can express anger that doesn't involve you shouting.
According to your own definition, you're abusing us, right?
If I tell you I think you're being retarded or I think you're a retard, that hits a lot different than if I tell my son I think he's a retard. Do you acknowledge the difference there, yes or no?
Yeah, I acknowledge that difference.
Okay, thank you.
Also,
so then there's a difference between me getting upset at you or Erudite getting upset in this conversation with you guys when the context is like a debate that we're having, deploying extreme violence on your partner.
It's kind of hot that it might get turned on her. I'm not one of those people. I don't own a weapon. I've never.
Do you really think it's okay to smack a woman if she's not acting right?
I think there are times when it is appropriate. Yes.
Let's go into Q&A, everybody, and thanks again to all of our speakers for being here. Psychor, $10. Hiring a servant with your millions when you're fresh out of surgery and wife is minutes from birthing twins. Cringe. Berating your massively pregnant wife for not doing all your chores. Based.
Yeah, this is this lie that if a woman is married to a rich man, that if she doesn't feel like doing something, that he should just hire somebody to take care of it for her. Women who are married to wealthy men are not just window dressing. They have obligations just like the man, and they should be held accountable instead of saying, well, if she doesn't want to do it, you have enough money to pay for her to do it. That doesn't make any sense.
Isn't Hillary Clinton like an actress or a model or something? Like, I imagine she probably wasn't working at that time, but doesn't she have like tons of things that she does?
You
probably
said Hillary Clinton. You meant Hillary Crowder?
Yeah, I meant Hillary Crowder. Her too, though. I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton's a really good model.
She's
super hot. Yep.
They should both be locked up.
All right, let's continue on. Flamio, $5. Thanks for coming back. If Steven Crowder is abusing his spouse by debating her, then modern day debate is an underground fight club. We're not supposed to talk about it. Anybody want to comment on that?
Different behaviors are appropriate in different settings. Having an argument with somebody when they're clearly emotionally distressed and they're trying to take space and then telling them that they're not allowed to take space is pretty abusive.
Claiming that it's okay to have more emotional range in an online debate than it is to have an argument with your wife is ridiculous. You should be able to share more of your emotions with your wife. Get angrier, get more invested, be more honest with her.
No one is saying that you can't be invested. Nobody is saying that you can't be angry, and nobody's saying that you can't be honest. It's like straw man after straw man after straw man. There are different ways that I would engage with my online community that I would not engage with my wife, that I not engage with my son, that I wouldn't engage with my parents. Of course, that's obviously true. It's not a matter of showing a different range. It's just a matter of appropriate.
So give one example. Give one example when you can be.
Give an example.
When you could raise your voice towards a spouse.
I don't think it's ever good to raise your voice towards a spouse.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's crazy.
We win again.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy. That's actually
another
crazy.
win for the Thorp.
True. Raising
the
voices
destiny
towards
sphere is over,
spouses
and
equals
NotSoErudite is over.
based.
Ever raising your voice?
No,
Ever?
you shouldn't. Raising your voice usually means you're emotionally dysregulated. It's probably not a good thing to do.
So if your wife's about to walk off a cliff and she's not aware of it, you can't say, hey, stop.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right,
are we talking?
to you.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to take a giant debate L. There are times when you raise your voice. If your wife's about to walk into traffic and you're trying to warn her not to, or if she's walking in the park and a snake is chasing her, then you can say,
so now you're going back on what you just said.
I am going back. You're right. That's a big debate W for you.
So
there
take
are
the
times
L,
you're going
right.
to, yeah,
so another L
I did.
for you,
Huge L. My bad. Yeah,
side.
you got me there, okay?
Do you think there's ever like a time where it's going to be really emotionally healthy and like helpful to your relationship to like insult your wife or tell her that you don't love her?
Yes.
Is that like part of the range of emotions that you need to show your spouse?
Yes, to show her that you're...
In certain circumstances, yes, I would say.
If she's made you angry because
and everyone.
If she's made you angry because she's doing wrong, you should communicate that to her. That's healthy communication.
Do you think that you can healthily communicate that you've been...
Stop doing this! No one is saying that you can't communicate anger. Why do you keep doing this weird dichotomy?
You just said it.
No.
Steven,
she asked you. Hold on. Erudite asked you if it was okay to scream at your wife. Erudite asked you if it was okay if you scream at your wife. Yeah, Erudite asked me if it was okay to scream at your wife. And then you counted this. You should be able to show anger and you should be able to show emotion, whatever. No one is saying that you can't do that. Stop with the weird. No one is. Stop doing the weird dichotomy there.
What happens? What happens when you express anger?
I asked you for one example. You didn't.
What happens when you express anger? What happens?
You don't have to scream or shout or demean.
The idea that you guys
raise your voice and you get emotionally invested.
Grace.
That is part of getting angry.
No, there are two ways to process emotions always. It's called externalizing and internalizing.
Men show anger more aggressively.
I almost got you.
please.
The fact that you think that you cannot express an emotion unless you're being abusive to your partner is insane. You can show your anger in a ton of ways. For example, when Nick and I get angry at each other, we almost always take a time out because it's not very healthy to show your partner your anger because you typically say things that you would otherwise regret. What we do instead... Okay, go off, Queen, about our relationship. But what we do instead is take some space,
about what you said.
regulate ourselves down. The idea that you must at all times maximally show precisely how you feel and never filter it at all is just immaturity. You're just being emotionally
Okay, so
immature.
this shows your bias. You think that anger is a bad emotion to have.
Nobody
say
said
that?
that anger is a bad emotion to have. There are ways you can express anger that doesn't involve you shouting.
Okay, here's a good example. I'm frustrated
position.
with both of you right now, and I'm raising my voice a little bit because I'm frustrated. Is that super bad? Do I think that that's bad? What do you think?
You're arguing that it is.
You said
another
you
L
would
for
never
your
raise
side.
your voice
course
You're
I'm not.
arguing that it is.
You would never raise your voice to your
Let's
partner.
let Grace speak, please.
But you said that. So according to your own definition, you're abusing us, right?
No, we don't have that relationship. We're people on the internet. We can shout and scream at each other. It's a different context.
Oh, but with the person you trust the most, you can't share your emotions? How does that make any sense?
If I tell you,
you can't be
if I
honest
tell
about how you feel.
No, it's not about
must
being
you
honest.
show-
If I
Let's
tell
let
you,
Steven-
if I
let's
tell
let
you,
Steven
I
talk,
think
please.
you're being retarded, or I think you're a retard. That hits a lot different than if I tell my son I think he's a retard. Do you acknowledge the difference there? Yes or no?
Yeah, I acknowledge that difference.
Okay, thank
but
you.
Also,
So then there's a difference between me getting upset at you or Erida getting upset in this conversation with you guys when the context is like a debate that we're having versus getting upset about resolving a personal issue in a relationship with a significant other.
Okay.
Those are two different
Look,
contexts.
Look.
I'm also not yelling at you guys. I'm raising my voice.
I'm yelling.
You changed it. You said there's no context in which, and I asked you, I gave you the big win. You just give me one context in which a man can raise his voice at his spouse. You said, I choose not to engage. And you took your first L and you're keeping them coming at you. Now, if you say, of course, that with your children and with your spouse, you should start from a position of kindness and gentleness. Of course. But you are the ones who are saying that in no context can what Steven Crowder did be understandable. And you are wrong by your own admission.
No one
said
is saying
that.
understandable.
No one has said
We're saying, and there are times when people do raise
Yes.
their voice. Nobody's perfect, but what we're saying is you can express anger and all sorts of and disappointment and all sorts
you're
of
not
other
gonna get out
things
of this one.
without being angry. Or I'm sorry, without screaming.
Take
at
your
somebody.
L.
express
Like
anger
you
without
said,
being
it's
angry.
abusive.
You
Let me-
can
let me-
express
let me
anger
speak.
without
Let me-
being
let me-
angry.
Everybody,
very-
hold on.
here's like a-
That's what
hold
you
on.
just said.
Hold on. We're gonna let Ben wrap up his thoughts there. Oh, he's lighting a cigarette.
I can
Finish
rev
up
up my
your thoughts
thoughts
there.
and smoke.
It's all good. All right, so we'll let you speak and finish up your thoughts, and we'll
Thank
pass
you.
back to Steven.
You guys are changing your position, and you're going to take yet another L. You said it's definitely abusive what Steven said, and all we're saying is I could see a context in which it makes perfect sense. And you said nope. And Kyla actually tried to give you guys a little out, and then you took it from her by saying no, honey, no context whatsoever, and she agreed with you, and that's where you took your first L, and you can't get out of it now. You said that, and you've lost the debate. So let's move on.
Okay, here are the two statements that Kyle and I are making that you guys can't seem to wrap your head around. Okay, number one is you can express anger or disappointment or contempt without screaming or shouting at somebody. Okay, for instance, I can say, "You're a f***ing failure of a wife," or I can say, "Hey, this household is very stressful for me, and I'm very upset because you can't seem to do your responsibilities, and it is hurting me," right? You're
Right.
expressing the same thing there in two totally different ways, okay? Both partners are angry and feel like their wife is failing their obligation. In one, you can express it in a very derisive, condescending, evil way. In a second way, you can express it in a, hey, I'm feeling hurt about this. You're not living up to your obligations, okay? So that's the first thing we're making. The second one is screaming, shouting, or being derisive or aggressive or angry towards your partner, or expressing that in a screaming, shouting, snarky sort of way is almost never conducive to solving problems. Those are the two statements we're making, okay? Not that you can never be angry, not that you should never ever be mean, not that being mean makes you instantly abusive, not that you can never hold them responsible for anything. We've never made any of those statements. We don't even agree with those things.
Okay, so you're going back on what you said, and you said there is no context in which Steven Crowder's behavior can be perfectly understandable, even though we've given you one.
Understandable. Sorry, you can take that if you want. No one is
And
there's tons of
morally
things.
fine.
I can
And
understand
morally
why some
fine.
people kill people. Understandable is not the same thing as morally acceptable.
Perfectly morally
All right.
acceptable.
All right, I'm sorry, fellas. Let's let Erudite in here, please.
So we need to be clear about what we said. There are certain things where we said there's no context that we think these statements can ever be helpful, which was 3 specific statements. We started this. The reason why so many people on the internet are mad at Stephen and I is because we said from the very beginning, you can't say much about a 3-minute video and how it confers to the rest of the relationship. The idea that we've just denied that context can exist outside of this, that might make certain statements that look bad become more benign, of course we've acknowledged that. That's been our position the whole time. There are 3 specific statements that are self-evidently toxic, which is, I don't love you, I'm going to fuck you up. And now I can't remember the other one. In these cases, no, there is no context where you need to say to your wife, I'm going to fuck you up, or I don't love you. There just isn't.
Even though I've given you them. Even though I've given you context.
You've never given us a statement where it's okay to say, I don't love you.
If you don't feel love towards somebody, that's okay to say.
Okay, then in that case, the relationship is over.
Well, we're not debating whether the relationship's over. We're debating whether he's abusive. Abusive. You're saying that's abusive. I'm saying it's not abusive if he doesn't love her anymore. How is that abusive? It's honest.
Okay, it's either abusive or it's relationship terminating then, if you'd like to add the second one. I thought we were coming at this from the context of trying to fix problems in a relationship. So if you want to say that, you can say
you guys said he was negotiating.
Yeah, because you guys were claiming that it was a negotiation. You said that he was trying to solve a problem, and now you're saying, well, it's okay to say you don't love somebody if you're ready to end the relationship. Okay, then honestly, is the relationship is done then. In that case, it's good that Hillary left. You guys should be championing that she left because Stephen Crowder said he didn't love her anymore. That's fine, which is perfectly rational. If your husband doesn't love you anymore, why the f did you stay? So okay, cool, based.
Yeah, I think it was an end game thing. Now, I actually wanted to say, like, this is a larger context, is emotions. What you're saying is that the emotions that the typical way that men, big, strong, masculine men express emotions is wrong and immoral, right? And you're saying they have to have this therapist type of talk. That's not true. That's why men who are masculine, for example, Steve Jobs was notorious. I'm no big Steve Jobs fan. He was notorious for demanding a lot of his highly paid employees, and he didn't beat around the bush. And when Hillary Crowder married Steven Crowder, okay, she married a man like this, and that is attractive, okay? But if you say, well, no, you've got to clip yourself and act like Steven would act with a female always, that's not fair.
Great. So since you're not talking to Steve and I, because literally nobody said any of those things, I guess there's like an extra ghost in the room. Do you want to talk to my plant? Maybe the plant
did say those things.
That.
He used a specific example of where you can't have a certain tone, and then he said what you need to do is this therapy talk and go, I'm having trouble with you. Right?
Steve Jobs was notoriously seen as an asshole by literally everybody. Steve Jobs was the CEO of a company bossing around his employees. Steven Crowder, clearly his strategy didn't work because now he is divorced, and Steven Crowder's wife is not his employee. So your example literally fortifies what I'm saying and fails at what you're saying at every single stage of the way, unless you think a husband ought to treat his wife like a CEO who is notoriously known as being an asshole and died of fucking ass cancer or whatever because he ate too many vegetables, okay, that everybody fucking hated, that's like the gold standard for how to treat a partner. But none of that makes sense.
Would you say that relationships have commonalities? The relationship between a parent and a kid, between spouses, between co-workers, there are commonalities.
There are some commonalities, but there's also crucial differences.
Okay, and your difference is that you can never raise your voice or express anger in a kind of honest way. You have to clip it and always be this kind of therapist about it when a man is dealing with a woman. But I haven't heard you say that backwards. I haven't heard you say
this like Steven Crowder was just being really honest and vulnerable with his wife about his feelings it is just dishonest. That is not what happened. Hillary said, but Steven, I love you. And then he said, I don't love you. And I've never experienced love from you. He was whinging out and getting upset.
No, he wasn't doing that. You're exaggerating.
You can be pro-masculinity without being pro-toxicity, right? You can be pro-masculinity.
You're anti-masculine. You just
not actually.
Yes, you did. You just made fun of him and exaggerated and tried to make him look like he was crying. He wasn't.
What's more emasculating than getting divorced from your wife and losing access to both your children?
He was fighting to keep the access.
Do that to him.
He wasn't fighting to keep the access. He fucking drove his wife out of the household.
Right. So what you would do is go, yeah, honey, Okay, all your failures, just keep them coming, and I'll hire someone to do what you have to do. You can never confront a woman.
So just to be clear, when I'm making fun of...
I just want to affirm, I did say that. You can never confront a woman ever. I just want to make sure we all understand that's what I'm saying. Go ahead, Kyla.
Well, I asked you to give me an example. You couldn't.
So just to be clear, I'm making fun of Steven Crowder for being toxically feminine in this case, right? He's being like manipulative and trying to coerce her through his words of saying, I don't love you, and I've never experienced love from you. That's what I'm making fun of him. He's being toxic, and in this case, I think he's being feminine as well. And that's why I'm making fun of him, because it's cringe. It's toxic and inappropriate behavior.
He is being vulnerable. Yes.
No, he's
toxic
not.
To
How is
say
he being vulnerable?
She's beating the shit out of him. She's beating the shit out of him, and he's taking it.
That's toxic to say?
No. Did I say it's always toxic to say these things? I said, I don't love you, and I've never experienced love to you, in response to her saying, but I love you. I want to work on this. Is toxically feminine.
She didn't say I want to work on this. You're adding things. She said, I love you, I'm committed to you, and then a couple months later, she divorced him.
What is I'm committed to you? What does I'm committed to you mean? But I want to work on things.
But then she went and divorced him. He
hired a divorce lawyer. He hired a divorce lawyer.
In the context of this, if she said, Steven, I love you and I'm committed to you, and his response is to lash out and go, I don't love you, and I've never experienced love from you.
But see, you keep feminizing him. You keep feminizing him. You keep turning it into him crying like a baby. He was.
Well, the other option is he's being toxically masculine, I suppose, but we can watch it again. I'm pretty sure when he says it,
no,
it's
there's
not
another
like this,
option.
Really impressive
there's another option, Kyla, and that
look,
is
wife,
that he was.
I'm out of this relationship. We've come to the place. I don't love you anymore, wife. That's not happening.
So that's the only two ways you can interpret masculine behavior. Because you hate men.
True.
We can watch the reaction video if you want to share it up there, Grace.
Okay, hang on. Let me find it.
Yeah. All right, let's share the reaction video.
See if it looks like what Kyla portrayed it as. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It looks like a man at his wit's end. And I sympathize with Steven Crowder. And if he's watching, I do want to have a conversation about your situation because I think it can help. And Grace can help too. Grace wants to go to that patio and give the dog his medicine and take the dog for a walk and be grateful and anything else he needs after what he's been put through.
I would be happy. He needs some feminine support after being attacked by this bitch. Okay, let me find it. Oh, here we go. I don't love you. Okay. Share screen.
Make sure you share the audio if there's audio to be had.
You need to just stop engaging for a little bit, okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you, and the fact is when I don't...
Okay, that's the part right there. I can keep going, but...
Okay, so how does that sound like what Kyla said?
Because she's literally saying, Steven, I love you. I'm committed to you. And then that sounds to me like somebody that's trying to or wants to work on it. And then he's saying, I don't love you. I've never received love from you. That sounds like somebody that's given up. So in the context of this recording, sounds like he's the one that's given up and he's ready to throw in the towel. And I'm pretty sure he's the one that hires the divorce lawyer like a month after this video.
I can explain that, but I think we're at an impasse. If you think his reaction there is, Steven, we're at an impasse. If you think his reaction there
I don't love you.
Not reasonable.
Steven, I love you. I'm committed to you. Well, I don't love you. And the big problem here is that I've never received love from you.
Okay, so you in your imagination think that is what happened. And so we're experiencing two different realities, Kyla.
He did not say that.
I'm on planet Earth and you're somewhere out in outer space in anti-masculine land. And you should get the hell out of the manosphere and stop telling men what to do because they should know that you are a hater of men. Don't give them any more
As long
advice.
as you say it
get the fuck away from men.
confidently enough, anything can be true. Let me see it here.
Yeah, cope all you want. Cope all you want.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing here. We're exposing you for what you are, which is a man hater.
How are you? It's never mind.
You're actually both
ahead,
emotion
Steven.
haters too.
What?
If you had something to say there, Steven, if you wanted to.
No, I'm fine.
Neither of you should be giving advice to anyone about anything.
Okay, I will say,
least of all
never mind.
relationships.
You are a man who is divorced from his wife, defending another man who just got divorced from his wife for toxic behavior, talking to two people that are happily married about how to maintain a happy marriage. How are you telling us that we're not qualified to give advice on this?
You want to go into your marriage?
You want to
go into your marriage? You told me yesterday that you would kill your child, and that the only thing keeping you from it would be the inconvenience of driving your car to the abortion clinic. You are a disgusting person.
True, babe.
Say that.
I would have an abortion, yes.
Let's try not to reference prior.
Well, he
discussions.
referenced himself
I
as
did
an
reference
example.
myself. True.
That is,
And
that
we can
is
talk
fair.
about Kyla too if we want, but I won't go there.
You can't talk about my relationship because there's nothing. Like
Right,
if you want like a
exactly,
picture perfect of just like
exactly.
a really
Thanks
healthy,
thanks
happy
for
relationship,
letting us.
you can find Nick and I. Okay, we're so happy and healthy that my main insult on like many spaces that I'm boring. Okay, but go
Well,
on, King.
let's continue on, and it's
Maybe
always-
I'm not here to say like
Okay,
I'm
no,
not
you're
here to judge your relationship, but there are signs here.
but
Everyone's seen them.
True.
This was an incredible launch off of then modern day debate is an underground fight club, which I know Oflamio knows we're not supposed to talk about that. So, positive $10. Destiny is based and GigaChad because he can give the best argument for either side with no attachment. He even delivers better people who are super attached to their side. I think he means delivers arguments. Delivers better people who are super attached to their side. This is based, not flip-flop.
Wow.
There's a lot of missing punctuation
I
there.
can't tell if they're a fan of Destiny or a hater of Destiny.
There's a bit of missing punctuation.
I would agree that your analyses of this are the most nuanced. So like we're not really on the opposite sides here, but
I don't think that much of a fan because it starts out with the based in GigaChat, so I don't know if that's a compliment in these spaces. So we'll just move on from there. I think we've got better questions. Sorry, Positive. Thank you for your donation, your super chat. So much mass for $4.99. If I follow Grace for 5 minutes on the street while yelling at her, is there physical intimidation?
I would say yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, how is that
Yes.
physical intimidation? He's not actually attacking you.
if I
He's
I
following
have
me.
followed
I
Grace
don't
on the
know
street
her.
for 5 minutes yelling at her. I have. That's not physical intimidation.
Wait, hold on. Grayson,
Of a
Daddy Grace
stranger
just
did
gave.
it.
Oh, so then there are cases where you can physically intimidate somebody without actually laying your hands on them?
Well, is it literal physical intimidation? No. Is it psychological intimidation with your physically? I mean, it's not physical. You're not blocking me, but I don't know. I don't actually. It's not physical. Literally, you're not putting your hands on me.
Anyone who's acting, any stranger on the street who's acting crazy, obviously, is creating a situation in which people are going to be concerned.
Do you guys think that like when like cowboys and like herders are like pressuring animals to move with their like body space, that they're like psychologically pressuring the animals?
We already answered this. Are we in a loop?
Just checking. Just wanted to see if you would say this.
And they're pressuring them with the threat of violence. Is that correct, Kyla?
Not usually. Usually
No.
it's
So
just
animals aren't
physical
trained
pressure.
through the use of violence. Those
Do
dogs
they?
aren't
Do
threatening
cowboys?
to nip them.
Oh, nip them.
Have you ever heard of breaking a horse?
Yeah. Yes. Usually it's not through violence. Like if you think like putting something on and taking it off.
Yeah,
is
it's
violence,
carrot
I
stick.
guess.
It's carrot stick, but you're saying like do this or suffer the consequences. We're not talking about animals anyways.
Well, we started by talking about physical presence of stuff. Yeah. And it's not typically through threat of violence. It's usually just like being spooked, right? Like you very rarely need to ever like touch a cow or a horse to get it to move. Basically never.
Yeah, I agree that talking with people rationally in a calm tone of voice is the best way to approach problems. However, it's not the only way.
No one's saying it's the only way. It's just the only healthy way.
Yeah, you are. You're saying you
It's the
can't.
only
you
healthy
can't
way.
rise to a certain threat. Okay, so it's the only healthy way.
Yes.
So that's where we disagree.
Clearly.
And the entire corpus of psychology and human history shows that there are times when you have to raise your voice and exhibit aggressive things to prevent evil from occurring.
There will
and you know
never,
that true.
There will never be.
Well, I'd hate to be in your house if someone comes in and
Sorry,
threatens
Ben.
your family because you're going to be rational. You're not going to raise your voice and intimidate that person.
Notice
All
how
right,
the
let's let
only
Steven
time you've
speak
said it's
without
acceptable to raise your voice is in times of like grave, like life-threatening, like when your wife is about to fall off a cliff or if somebody breaks into your house and you're
But
comparing
you
that
said
to
never.
him. You're-
Let's let Steven speak.
Yeah. When we say never,
You said never.
When we say never, obviously the context is in resolving
No,
conflict
don't
with a
say
partner.
never. Don't
With
say never.
Okay.
Let's let Steven speak, please, Ben.
I'm sorry, let me give all the qualifiers, okay? You should never do it when you're trying to resolve a conflict with your wife, when you're both on the planet Earth, when the year is 2023, when the person isn't hard of hearing, so you don't need to raise your voice to communicate with them, when they're sufficiently close to you that speaking quietly, like, do I have to add like a million qualifiers for you to understand what we're talking about? Like, it's pretty obvious what I'm saying. When I say don't raise your voice to your partner, and then you go, well, what if they're about to walk into the street? Do you really think that's what we're talking about right here?
Is it wrong to be angry at somebody? And if not, is it wrong to show that anger?
Where's the rewind thing? We just got sucked back to some dumb shit that nobody said.
Is it wrong to show that anger
through
yelling at somebody? Through
Generally,
showing
yes.
anger?
Yes. You shouldn't be yelling at partners.
Yes. But is it okay to be angry at somebody?
Yes, it is okay to be angry. You shouldn't be shouting at your partner.
Okay, what are the typical ways that we express anger?
There are lots of typical ways we express anger, but you can do it with your words. You can do it with your actions. You can do it by taking space from somebody.
No, anger is an emotion. So how do we emotionally express it? If you're sad, you cry. If you're angry, you...
But there's a million things you could go work out.
If you're angry, you what?
You can say, hey, I'm angry with you. That's one way to express it.
You said that's wrong.
I did not say that's wrong.
He's never said that's wrong.
Well, that's what Steven Crowder is doing, so another W for us.
I'm angry at you. You just said that. That's what he said to her. So that's abuse or not?
All
you just
he
said
did
that's
is
fine.
express frustration.
Yeah, okay. That's all he did. I'm going to fuck you up. It was just a feeling. He was just feeling
okay, see, now
like
you're saying
now
you're saying what the context was, and you raised your fist. And you're lying, Kyla. Stop lying about men. You should be in the manosphere, but stop lying about men.
Let's continue on with our super chats.
Men are not evil, Kyla.
Whatever we're talking about right now, I mean, I know what we're talking about right now, but whatever we are talking about, it's all going to come full circle because we've got lots of super chats coming in. And if you want this conversation to continue, keep the super chats coming in and we'll continue to read them and we'll continue on. So, now I have to scroll up. This is never fun. Okay, Vosh fan for $13.99 Canadian. Hey, Canadian. If following someone to continue an argument, this is kind of similar to what we just read. If following someone to continue an argument when they want it to end, is it physical abuse? Then every girlfriend is it physical abuse? Then every girlfriend I've ever had should be put in jail. Stop gaslighting us. You guys are better than this.
So to be clear, I never said it was physical abuse. I said that he was physically imposing himself. And by the way, I would agree that if you're trying to get away from an argument with a girlfriend and she follows you into the next room, I would agree that that's abusive. Yes, you have a right to draw space between you and your partner when you feel like you are upset or emotionally dysregulated. You absolutely have. And if somebody tells you you don't, or if they're trying to impose themselves physically and you to force you to continue the argument, I would say that's an abusive behavior. Yes.
Ridiculous.
All right, over to you, Erudite. That question was for both of you.
I mean, he basically answered it. Nobody here said abuse. We said physical coercion. And if you are following around, yes, that is bad. I believe that almost nobody would be thrown in jail for following somebody around, even though it's toxic. Just because a behavior is toxic or abusive doesn't mean it's illegal.
Utterly ridiculous.
Well,
all abusive behavior should be illegal.
Well, let's continue on because we will have lots of open discussion, I think, involving these super chats. And that one was kind of just pertinent to the last question there. So Vosh fan again for $13.99 Canadian. Woo, Canadian. All right, imagine hubby refusing to do his agreed chores and telling his concerned wife he'll be back when I'm back and stranding her by taking their vehicle so she can't visit her friends or family. Lol. He adds a lol at the end. So I think that's for Destiny and Erudite. So I'm going to hand that to you, Erudite, to start.
I guess person's never heard of taking an Uber or calling a friend, which was like part of the conversation. I think it's been well said. It wasn't precisely about the car. There is questions that we have to know about the context. Like, is there only one vehicle? Is there a reason why Steven felt that he must have the car and why he couldn't take an Uber or have a friend pick him up? Yeah, I don't know. It's just a silly point.
I don't like being misrepresented here, and I don't appreciate people acting otherwise. I hate women. And if I saw a guy that said that he wanted to leave the house and the woman wouldn't let him take the car, I would say, fuck that woman, okay? I don't have an obligation here towards women or men or hating men or whatever, okay? Fuck women. If a guy wanted to leave the house and someone said, no, you're not allowed to, you can't take the car, I'm not gonna let you, I would say, oh, that woman seems like she's being really manipulative and controlling. The same thing I would with Steven Crowder.
All right, well, let's continue on. Oh my. Yeah, gotta scroll up quite a bit. Ozion talks. Hey Ozion, how you doing tonight? $10. Glad to see you're here. Ben Thorp. A man doesn't show aggression to women. A woman who is afraid of you and flinches from you does it for a reason. either because of experience or from other men, or that man. So just to summarize, that's for you, Ben. A man doesn't show aggression to women. That's the first point. A woman who is afraid of you and flinches from you does it for a reason, either because of experiences from other men or that man. Thoughts on that, Ben?
Yeah, interesting question. I do not think that violence is a good solution except in the most extreme circumstances for men with their partners or spouses or with their children. I do think sometimes it's warranted, but it's not a good solution in people who are into that. Now, I will tell you this. Women like it. And you can say what you want, but they like it. They like it more than men like it. And that's an instinct. And they like aggressive men. And they even like violence. I've never understood that, but it's there. And it's the bad boy. I'm a good boy, but I'm seen as a bad boy because in this sphere, no one can be it can be a male at all. But I never have understood it, but women love assertive men who, and it does go into violence. And I don't agree with
on that on our other side?
That's just absolutely not true. You see the wordplay being done here with women like aggressive or assertive or confident men. That's not the same as being physically abusive. Women do not like men that hit them.
Right. So who's watching who's buying 50 Shades of Grey, Stephen?
50 Shades of Grey is a movie.
Why was that a huge bestseller?
Because it's a fantasy. Men bought it? It's a movie and it's a fantasy.
Okay, so where is fantasy located? It's in your mind, right? It's something you desire. Women are not buying that.
Different, okay? I really like the Spider-Man and Batman movies, but I don't jump off of buildings in capes.
Well, it speaks to you in some way. And,
it does. Same way that 50 Shades of Grey might speak to somebody in some way.
Okay,
it's not
so
that I want a man that beats the shit out of me.
What does it speak to? It speaks to a thirst that women have to be dominated and to be powerless. Yes, it does.
Dominated and powerless in a setting with a man that you respect and are extremely physically attracted to. Not just some loser that's beating beating the shit out of you.
And you have an explicit contract with as well.
Yeah, well, the explicit contract thing is what we all say to make it safe, but it's the non-consensual part of it that's the exciting part of it. I'm not advocating for it, but it is there, and I think it's a counterbalance to women having too much power in our culture, and they don't like it. And I think they want to move out of this.
Like, what do you do about like women's abuse shelters where women are trying to sneak and run away from their abusive partners because they don't know how to get away from these awful men in their lives? Do you think that these women are just like secretly lying and they're like are desperately like horny for it and they're just like hoping he'll come get her? Like,
obviously they go to the abuse shelters to get tips from other women for where to find all the good men.
True.
Well, are you saying that where there's situations of domestic violence, there aren't women who really feel like that's home for them and they enjoy it even though it's dysfunctional?
I like how do you remember the conversation we had earlier about you provide a fundamental psychological need while also like attacking somebody at the same time, and you get like you just like describe the dynamic.
I'm not
perfectly.
advocating for it.
You
I'm
describe
just saying.
the dynamic perfectly. Yes, there are people that can be psychologically abused to such an extent that they also tolerate physical abuse on top of it, and it can make the highs that much more exhilarating when the lows are that much more horrible. We call those abusive relationships. It's like doing heroin. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
I basically
is it
agree with
true
you.
that there are people who have received literally zero love in their life, so they'll take a partner who gives them like a small amount of love in exchange for lots of abuse because it's better than literally anything that they've ever experienced? Yes, that is true that this exists. It's tragic, it's awful, it's sad, and that doesn't mean that all women want that.
A lot of women would love to be with a man who is capable of extreme violence.
Capable of extreme violence.
And they find that fucking hot. Capable. I'm not one of those men, but they love it. They fucking love it. Sorry, guys.
Capable of extreme violence is not the same as deploying extreme violence on your partner.
It's kind of hot that it might get turned on her. I'm not one of those people. I don't own a weapon. I've never.
No, that's true.
What do you think they're more likely attracted to? The fact, like, if we're taking this premise, do you think that they're more attracted to the fact that, like, they could fuck things up, that they're physical specimens that are impressive? Or do you think that they're attracted to the fact of, like, who knows, at any moment he might snap and beat my face in? God, I love that. Which do you think it is?
You respect him a little bit more because he could exert that physical control over you.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, like, you should talk to women about what to do about this, because there is a tremendous thirst for this, and
there's really not. There's just not. That's just not true.
So women really want these little mouse men running around and worshiping them. They do not want.
There should be a false dichotomy.
We need a button
where
for
it's
it.
like, I don't think you should beat the shit out of women. Oh, so you want everybody to date Stephen Hawking then? Like, what the fuck is this comparison? Holy shit.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not advocating. I'm certainly not advocating for violence. I don't think it's a good solution. I'm a man of peace. I don't understand BDSM, but I'll tell you, it's not men who want to do BDSM that I know of. I find it exhausting, but I've encountered a lot of women who seem like there's no end to how much of that they want to do. And you can do research on it, Kylie, like looking things up on the internet. Look it up. Look up the fantasies. Look up when women are being real. They will say there's a desire for this. And I'm not saying that I have the solution for it, but don't tell me that it's men that enjoy hitting women. I think by and large, men just want, to be peaceful. I don't think
it's women who enjoy being hit.
There are men. Yeah. I do think there's some problem here, that there's a lie going on. Yeah. Women are more okay with violence than we give them credit for. That's right. I would say that's true.
All right. Well,
those are all completely different statements, by the way. None of those things are even like analogous or similar, but sure, go off.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm going to step in here and we're going to keep the super chats going. Keep them coming in. We're all for it. We're having a great discussion here as far as bouncing these ideas back and forth. So keep those super chats coming in and we'll keep having this discussion go. Just until somebody needs to use the washroom or do.
I was just going to ask a question. I've noticed a number of super chats coming in that seem to be assuming that Ben is telling the truth about like me and my platform. And I realize that the MDD fan base has probably never actually met me before. I think that I've talked to James a couple of times, but I actually haven't been on MDD. Just so it's clear, Ben is abjectly lying about my content. In fact, probably the biggest criticism I get on the internet is that people sometimes feel like I'm a pick-me because I talk so often about men's issues, right? Like that's like basically my bread and butter. That doesn't mean that I don't care about women's issues. I'm not finished talking. You lied about the fact that I hate men. You lied about the fact that I hate masculinity, and none of these things are true. And I just want to make it clear so I realize the MDD platform doesn't actually know me, and that's
Did you accuse me of
patently false.
Sexual harassment?
Absolutely.
For a sexual when we were talking about sexual preferences.
So it
and I
wasn't
asked you
just
what
that
your
question.
preference was.
I accused you of sexually harassing Nina because every single time she spoke, you kept talking to her, you kept asking her sexual questions. She kept telling you, please
What's
stop
a sexual
asking
question?
me sexual
We were talking
questions.
about sex.
There was tons of sexual questions. You talking about the idea of sex doesn't mean it's an invitation to ask Nina specifically about her sexual preferences and making pickup lines and alluding towards your interest in her. And so you constantly kept saying these things. There was a guy who came on the panel and asked both of us immediately if we squirted, and you.
And I'm responsible for him.
No. And you came on later and said that we like hard dicks inside us. Yes, absolutely. I said they were sexually harassing.
Say that. You're lying. You're lying.
You're the fucking liar, Kyla.
Let's try to
see. This is more of this
conversation.
anti-masculinity. She gets to do a whole litany of accusations to me, but I can't.
Yeah, come on, that's not
well,
fair.
Yeah. So now I know what Steven Crowder feels like. Steven, let's talk. Let's talk.
Let's continue on. But firstly, let's take care of ourselves personally. If anybody needs a drink of water, if anybody needs to use the washroom, now is the time. And whoever doesn't go, I will ask the question too. You're all staying? Sure. All right, cool. Let's continue on. I just want to make sure that I'm being considerate of that because I know we're going a little longer than we initially planned. So if you need a little refreshment or anything like that, feel free. So let's continue on, everybody. Oh my. Yes, we got to scroll up quite a bit. Thank you all for your super chats here. I'm going to have to get rid of a few of them here so I stop going through the same ones. All right. So sorry. Just give me 1 second. All right. So, Vosh fan once again for $13.99. You got a specific currency you like to spend that in, Canadian and $13.99. She clearly played it up for the camera, saying abuse repeatedly to save the footage for the divorce battle. Amber Heard 2.0. Grace's points are the same good points Destiny made the first few days.
I mean, I would say just by in that interaction, I would say that he's obviously, I would say she's throwing him off and he's getting more and more frustrated because he's saying like her responses are unnatural. So I guess I would say like, yeah, I do think in some ways she was playing to the camera.
Her responses were not unnatural. It sounded like they were retreading a fight that they'd had many times before, probably that they'd explicitly discussed in therapy. So.
All right, she said she needs space, right? And then she goes, you're abusive, right? If you don't want to get into something with somebody, you don't go around calling them abusive and then say, well, I gotta go. Either you engage or you don't. She's accusing him of something that's a serious thing to accuse your partner of. And then she says, I'm leaving. This is your abuse. It's like calling somebody crazy. If you say, you know what? You're acting really crazy. There's kind of nothing you can do to defend yourself, because if you are acting crazy, you wouldn't know it.
The reality of the situation is, and this is undeniable, if one or both parties are emotionally dysregulated, then you have to take space. You are never, ever, ever healthily solving a problem between two people when there is a high degree. That's reality. That is one of the few pieces of advice that I would say.
What is emotional? What did you say? Dysregulation? What is that? So expressing emotions? If either of you express emotions, you need to take a break from each other? What are you, fucking robots?
So if you're in it, let's say that you're in a situation where you're really, really, really hungry, okay? It's like the Snickers commercials, okay? You're not you when you're hungry. Sometimes being hungry can inhibit your cognitive thought process and you get irrationally upset at everything that happens. When
but you said emotional dysregulation. Yes, so any emotional dysregulation?
Being hangry is a type of emotional dysregulation. If you are fighting with a partner and you guys are coming to the level where you're screaming at each other, where you're insulting each other, or where you're acting snarky, then your adult brain is taking a back seat to your baby brain that just wants to come out and fight, and your ability to problem solve is gone.
Wait. Would you say the same about emotions? So if your partner is feeling really sad and is crying and is torn up about something, should you take a break because there's emotional dysregulation?
Absolutely. If my partner is crying
you should not support them? And have them share their emotion?
No. Hold on. Support and sharing an emotion is not trying to solve a problem. If somebody is incredibly upset and they're crying, then the conversation might be like, hey, it seems like you're really upset right now. Let's take a walk and talk about this. Or let's take a break and talk about this.
You said take a break. You said take space. Any emotional dysregulation, you need to take space from each other. That's what you said.
I need you to turn off the debate brain for 1 second and just listen to what I'm saying, okay? When
you are a debate brain.
Let's let Stephen wrap up his point there, and then we'll let you respond.
When two people or one or two people are emotionally dysregulated, the ability to solve the problem is gone. Now, what you do at that point, if it's a conflict, then you probably need to create space. But now the example you gave, if somebody's crying and needs support, then that might look like, well, we're emotionally dysregulated. We're not going to problem solve right now. I'll just support you. That would be maybe something you could do to help a partner that's emotionally dysregulated. But the crying situation is not where the conflict between the two people. It sounds like one person has a problem with something else and they just need support from their partner. But again, it would be the same thing that would apply. If they're crying, you're probably not going to be like, okay, I understand you're really upset right now, but let's figure out what we're going to do to solve this problem. It'd probably like, okay, hey, let's try to bring your emotions back in line, go for a walk, take a shower, watch a movie, whatever. And then when the emotions come back down, then you go back into problem-solving mode.
So can I just say something? Stephen, you said if you're really hungry, you need a Snickers bar, that you can't think straight. This is the problem with the younger generations. You have to be able to be mature enough that when you're feeling emotions, to handle them. And if you're hungry, you don't need to take a break from life. Maybe sometimes you just need to power through instead of immediately satisfying all of your needs.
That is the most toxic.
That might be.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. That is the worst advice. You would never give it to anybody in any situation ever. You do not try to power through your emotions. That is the answer given by somebody that doesn't realize how much their emotions control them. Anybody that ever gives that answer has no idea how irrational they can be when they're in an emotional state of mind. If you're emotional, what you do is you bring your emotions back in line and then you problem solve. Full stop. That's the advice you give to a manager, a business owner,
a father,
This is
why your relationship is so crazy in your life.
That's great.
You're not going to be successful in relationships in life unless you outgrow this immature, I need to take a break every time you get hungry and you feel like you need a Snickers. You need to go take a break and emotionally regulate. Give me a fucking break, Stephen.
Talking about anti-fragility has almost nothing to do with dysregulation, nor is anywhere Stephen saying that people should just be anti-fragile and the moment that they have their fifis broken, that they should just immediately fall down on the curb and cry.
He just said
Obviously. No, he literally didn't. Obviously. He used a Snickers ad, first of all. Bro. Context clues. What we're talking about here is emotional regulation. The idea that you should just power through and ignore your feelings is characterized as a form of dysregulation. What a healthy form of regulation is, say you're feeling upset in a situation, is you go, I notice that I'm feeling upset. And then you figure out whether or not that upsetness is something that you can tolerate. And if it is not, Absolutely, you should take a break, 100%, because there's nothing worse than in a conversation that's vital, like a major fight with your spouse, that you should go, wow, I'm really dysregulated and angry. I don't know if I can keep cap on my emotions and not react as a response.
Why do you have to keep a cap on your emotions? Why can you not express emotions to your partner? Because you're angry, if you're sad, if you're happy, whatever.
Yeah.
Why are emotions negative to express?
So emotions aren't negative to express, but your partner is not a punching bag for your emotional dysregulation. That's why you keep a cap on certain things. What if they cause
the emotional dysregulation?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, right? If I'm
so you are responsible
enraged,
for keeping yourself emotionally neutral and
you are responsible for
you.
All times? Yes, you are responsible. No,
that's the ideal.
No one has ever said
situation?
that. No, you're doing the dichotomy game. I need to find a word. We need to actually have like a buzzword for this, so we can
just
you
said
go
put
like,
a cap on it.
Sprogly boo. Yeah, putting a cap on it doesn't mean become neutral and feel nothing and have like false forms of stoicism. What it means is things like, wow, I notice that I'm feeling angry. Am I so angry that I can't handle this anymore? And if the answer is yes, you should leave. That would be the responsible thing to do. If the answer is I'm angry, but I think that I'm able to talk through my anger and not take it out on my partner, then that's fine, right?
But you say taking it out, but isn't being angry expressing anger? You say taking it out, but if somebody makes you angry because they did something wrong, is that taking out your anger on that person, or is that expressing an emotion that they caused within you and it's perfectly healthy?
So even if somebody made me angry and then I turn around and I start calling them names and telling them that I don't love you and that I'm going to fuck them up, yes, even though they made me angry, it doesn't change the fact that I'm responsible for my actions and my behavior, and it's still inappropriate of me, even if they made me angry.
What if you turn around and yell at them because you're angry? And you express your anger like every normal person does. Is that wrong?
It's yelling at the problem is whether or not it's here's the question. What is your goal with expressing the anger in a relationship? What do you think the goal should be?
Anger means somebody has done you something wrong. Somebody has done you wrong.
I'm going to repeat it. I don't think you heard what I said. Let me repeat it one more time. What is the goal of expressing your anger?
Okay, to show that person that they have caused you this emotion because they did you wrong. That's the goal.
And what do you want to do with that? Why do you want to show them that?
Because they did you wrong. So then you're angry because they did you wrong. So
they can either explain themselves or apologize. What are we just born 2 minutes ago? Kyla, the men who landed on Omaha Beach, if they followed your advice, they would step back and all talk to each other and analyze it. There are
do you know why advice comes from?
Wait, hold on, real quick before we do.
No, let me talk.
Well, I didn't get to respond to Grace. I was in a back and forth with her. Now you just fucking hijack this just to make some autistic point about 18-year-olds that went and killed themselves in fucking World War II. Okay.
Let's just watch how we're talking about our other speakers here tonight. But we will hand it over to Steven.
Sure. So real quick. So here's something that I noticed was suspiciously absent from when I asked you, what is the goal of showing anger? You said your goal is expressing it because they did something that made you mad and you want them to explain themselves or apologize. That is not the goal of expressing an emotion or relationship. The goal should always be to problem solve. If your goal is anything else, then your emotions are misaligned with what you should be doing to maintain the relationship. If your goal is just make somebody apologize or make them understand how mad you are, you're not trying to problem solve and you're not trying to make a healthy, better relationship. You're just trying to attack somebody.
I can work with that. It is problem solving. If somebody does something wrong to you and if you express anger, they can react to it and solve that problem by either apologizing or saying, no, I didn't do you wrong.
They're not going to do that, though. They're just going to get mad back at you.
It's part of human interaction. I don't know what you're talking about.
Why do you say it's part of it? This is literally human interaction 101. I know this as a fucking debater. If I'm arguing with somebody and their emotion is regularly upset, we're not going to be able to problem solve, just like we're not right now.
Steven,
you
know what? We are at an impasse. We are at an impasse.
Let Grace speak. Sorry, what did you say, Grace?
They're just kidding. They're just
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's. I was gonna say, well, when everybody's talking, I mean, there's going to be a certain amount of delay to the live stream. I've got a really good computer here. Erudite, you got your hand up there. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. I think a really big thing that's missing, like when I listen to you, Grace, is that like when you think anger, you think you think anger means must be yelling. But the answer is feelings don't dictate how you need to react to them. That is what emotional regulation is, where you go, dang, I noticed that I'm feeling angry. Like I had a fight with somebody just recently, and I noticed I was really, really angry after the fight. So rather than calling them back up and screaming and calling them names, because at the end of the day, my goal in my relationships is to have healthy, positive positive relationships. That's what my goal is. And part of that means solving problems, and part of that means being heard, right? Me calling them and screaming at them and saying nasty things to them isn't going to make them heard, and it isn't going to make my relationship better. So instead, I went for a run and I yelled into the air and I did all that I needed to do to externalize my emotions. But that doesn't mean that just because I'm angry that I now need to verbalize that directly at somebody else.
I agree with you.
I think, let me take this one.
Okay.
I would just like to propose, I don't know your background, and I'm not interested in critiquing your life. I'm sorry if I lean too far in that. But there are a lot of people who have experienced trauma who come up with a solution like yours that I think isn't about relationships. It's about control. You never want to be out of control. I'm not saying you necessarily, but especially there are females who have experienced a lot of trauma, males too, who just want to have control. So they never get out of control because it made them feel vulnerable. I'm sorry. It's called life. It's called relationships. And a life where you have total control that it seems like you're trying to yourself go for and advocate for others is a life that is not worthy of the name of life. The drama, yes, it can get out of control. Yes, it can be too much. Yes, it could be inappropriate. It can cause harm. But it's also emotions are what makes life worth living. It's the color, it's the fragrance, it's the joy. Like, you're not going to have any joys if you have this kind of, and I get it, you want to analyze everything so you'll never be in those places again. I'm just conjecturing. A lot of people do that. It is a mistake. Yes, reflect, but don't turn into a robot who can't hurt again. You might get hurt again. All of you out there watching, you might get hurt. You might get hurt in relationships. I've been hurt, but you can't turn it off and gain control. It's not going to work.
Emotions play a role in physical combat, and they play a role in things like solving problems in a relationship. And I agree, for example, all men should probably have a mature theory of violence. Men need to know how their anger causes them to want to do violence, how they need to respond to that, how to respond to different situations that might cause violence, and how they should de-escalate or possibly escalate in different situations where violence may be required. That is a dialing of their own emotional system to help them guide through what is the correct decision. That's not a negation of their anger or their frustration or their fear. It's using these emotions to make informed decisions. Just like in problem solving, you can use emotions. For example, like Chris said, anger tells you that you might be feeling disrespected. The problem is sometimes you're angry, not for a good reason. Sometimes somebody makes you mad and it's your stuff. There's no reason for you to be mad, right?
Absolutely.
The reason why in the cases of interpersonal dynamics between men and women, men have to be more careful about losing control because they're more likely to do physical harm, and society is afraid when strong men lash out.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but you know why they lash out, Kyla? A lot of times it's because they don't deal with their emotions and they don't express them, and it gets bottled up.
You're
and then
right.
It explodes.
You're
so
right.
Men need to have.
They just power through. You're right. They do that, and that's really toxic for them.
You're twisting what I'm saying. I didn't say just power through and don't have emotions. I'm saying sometimes if you want a fucking Snickers bar like Steven here wanted, that sometimes if you have other obligations, that those you don't need to make sure. I see when I see young people today, they're constantly hydrating themselves. Leave the goddamn water bottle alone and do what you're doing. And you don't have to play video games while you're talking with another human being. Sorry, Steven. Just focus.
The whole
and if I didn't, she'd call me an autistic.
Everything related to this conversation is so insane, because if you were to talk to anybody with a healthy relationship, any therapist, literally any woman, any person ever, they will tell you that in a relationship, the best types of people to be with are people that can communicate emotions without demeaning a partner, attacking a partner, screaming at a partner. These are the best people to have relationships with. They're the best problem solvers. Not only, actually, fuck relationships. Relationships are gay. We don't have to talk about relationships. This is true of leaders as well. This is true of managers in a business environment. This is true of CEOs of a company. You read How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's not chapter 14, how to call your boss a raging fucking piece of shit and show everybody how mean you are. There's no book on leadership or commanding people will ever be like that. So
You're
for
wrong
you to
about that.
Okay, well, you won't find that's not the habits of effective leaders. Nobody leads like that.
If that's the only thing in their book. You just said Steve Jobs, one of the most successful corporate executives ever in history. Okay, and I probably think he was an asshole, but he was a great innovator, right, Steven?
He had a good product with the iPhone.
Well, he wasn't a failure of a human being.
That doesn't
His
mean that you
relationships
model
were
your
failed, weren't they?
interpersonal relationships after him.
Hold on. Wasn't Steve Jobs like alienated from his family and his daughter and everything in death?
Well, okay.
So
all right,
why is he the
Steve
guy
Jobs
that
is
we're
a-
modeling our relationships after?
I understand that a lot of driven men can alienate people and be too driven and lack a kind of understanding of the softer side of life. Okay, but if a woman marries a man like that, she's gonna she gets the benefits, but she's also got to deal with them.
Okay,
and
then
a lot
the
of
man
women
has to deal
find
with
that.
then the man has to deal with the downsides of her maybe leaving and then getting alimony and child support. That's part of your role as a man then, I guess. If that's what we're going to say how men run their relationships, and that's going to be how they run their divorces.
Well, I don't see Steven Crowder
Destiny.
doing any of that stuff. I think he's, totally engaged in a normal way. And Kyla can portray it as him being a baby, but that's just emasculating another man for no reason.
I think you need to put a cap on your emotions and stop yelling at me because this feels really abusive right now.
If you were telling me that in sincerity, do you know what I would do? I would say, okay, I'll stop yelling.
Why are you yelling in the first place? Why are you abusing me in the first place?
Didn't I literally send you a DM this morning saying, like, I'm sorry if I came off too harsh or whatever, like, I won't be poking or prodding you on that subject? Didn't I actually literally send you that message this morning? So I do this. Like,
no, you are I'm not saying you're not a nice guy. You're a very nice guy. No, but what I'm saying is by your own logic, I'm saying you're wrong. It's fine for you to yell, but you're saying it's wrong for you to yell.
We have a different type of relationship. We're random people screaming at each other on the internet. If you were my daughter, or not to poke at your relationship, but like if you're my daughter, or if you're like my wife, or if you were like a parent, I wouldn't be talking to you the same way. There's going to be a different context for those conversations.
Yeah. Stephen, when I can say I witnessed you walking, who's that woman? Not Kidology. You walked her through setting up her OBS on her computer. You were incredibly patient, and yet, it's sort of a masculine thing. So you're saying, go here, go here. I had no critique whatsoever. I thought you were just like amazingly generous towards her. In that circumstance, you weren't yelling at her. You were guiding her through it. You understood that she had some limitations, and it's not because she was female. It's just because whatever, she was a novice. I think that's true of both of you, from what I've seen. But I think in this area of relationships,
what are you guys doing? Like, why are you both just like telling us that we're like nice people and stuff like that? Like all of this, like I don't know.
You're wrong about the other stuff.
Yeah, it feels a little slimy and manipulative. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm not
interested.
Accuse me of sexual
harassment? I like being manipulated.
Kyla.
Keep glazing.
How about if I say you look good, Kyla?
You can slide into Destiny's DMs with the manipulation.
Let's avoid the prior discussion because, as we've already discussed, that's not what we're here to talk about. So we'll continue on with our super chats. All right. Let's scroll on up because I appreciate everybody in the live chat for coming out and putting the super chats in because we have quite a few of them to go through. So we do have a lot of conversation that's going to keep happening. And I see you there. You're putting more in there. Stop it. We'll be here all night. Okay, keep going. All right. So I have a personal question here, Destiny. We can just skip it. It's from Vosh Fan. It's related to your relationship. They're asking questions, so we can just skip that if you want.
Well, I mean, like, is it a question of like, how do I live with myself getting cucked on a daily basis, or is it a question that's like relevant to the conversation? I'm curious.
Yeah, I want to know about your cucking status.
Maybe it's kind of related to. All right, I'm going to read it then. All right, Vosh Fan, $6.99 Canadian. Destiny has never raised his voice at Melina during an argument, and Melina has never continued an argument which Destiny wanted to stop. Right.
Well, I don't understand what the implication is. There are mistakes that I've made in my relationship, and there are things that I do that are probably abusive. That's absolutely true. There are also times where I've lied to people. I used to steal from McDonald's when I worked for them, from the cash register. I've made mistakes in my life. I'm not going to sit here and say because I've made a mistake that we ought to do it. There are things that I recognize as mistakes. If you were to ask me the next question, what are things you're trying to improve in your relationship? I would say I try to communicate better. I try to resolve problems quicker. And I'm sure the same would go for Melina. She tries to give me some space when she's pushing to resolve a dispute, and we try to like communicate in a healthier way with each other. Like these are things that we're constantly working on. We're not trying to be more aggressive towards each other or more conflict oriented towards each other. Like just because I make mistakes or my wife might make mistakes doesn't mean I'm saying that those mistakes are good. They're recognized as mistakes.
I mean, this is like max chattered energy where it's just like, oh, if you're giving the ideal situation of how relationships go, that means you've never done anything wrong ever in your entire relationship, right?
Yeah, like imagine you're playing League of Legends and I'm like, you should try to get 10 CS a minute. It's like, why would you say that when last game you only had 100 CS at 20 minutes and you died 7 times? Like, oh, never mind. I guess that's what you're supposed to do? I don't understand that. Yeah.
I don't know your nerd language.
About? I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right. Well, we can continue on. Let's see here. Now, if you didn't see off to the side here, I can see that there's 1,000 people watching tonight, and there's only 250 likes. So I don't know if you've got arthritic wrists or what's going on there. That's my usual go-to dad joke. But like, maybe you got some like real problems with your thumbs, but it's right below this video. You hit the like button, and it does help, but not as much as sharing out the video. And once again, thank you to everybody here for showing up. And it looks like Erudite's given herself a mustache there with her own hair. Very stylish. Excellent. That's the look right there. So let's continue on with our super chats. And I will say, anyone's that's sending in a super chat that is personal, I am going to check with each debater before we talk about it. I know we are talking about relationships and behavior and stuff like that. I use that term because we are going to read a super chat that is involving that. So once again, try to keep the super chats, light and loose, and not attacks against our speakers.
You're welcome to give us any attacks, at least me.
Well, I'll read them, but to a certain degree.
Up to you.
Same cloth, $5. What's the relationship you've seen / had with your parents, Grace and Ben? I'm seeing you leaving space for narcissistic behavior. So we'll start with you, Ben. If you want to talk about your relationship with your parents, that's up to you.
No. I think the question is saying, what is your relationship with Grace, with your parents, right? No,
I think it's to me. What is
I was going to say,
Oh.
it just says Grace and Ben, so I think they're asking each of you.
Oh.
So it's up to you. It's a personal question. You can choose not to answer. I think they're asking Ben, what's your relationship with your parents, and Grace. No. So if you don't want to answer that,
I'll answer. I used
okay.
to have a very contentious. My parents were divorced, and I used to have a contentious relationship with both of my parents, but especially with my father. And I do advocate for men to reconcile with their fathers. Doesn't mean they have to be right. It's a Jesse Lee Peterson point, but he is absolutely right. You've got to find your peace with your father and your father in heaven, and you will find all of the problems in life can be resolved. Absolutely necessary. But we still have contention. He's in the middle of trying to sue me.
Jesus.
All right. Well, any other comments on that before we get into more trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that question. I've seen my parents. I mean, yes, I would say my dad is firm with my mom, and my mom got overwhelmed, and it's personal, but she left my family about 6 weeks ago and hasn't come back. So she did the same kind of thing, running out and leaving her responsibilities behind. But just because something's similar doesn't mean it's projection. But yes, there are similarities for me.
Okay. All right. Well, let's continue on. And I got to scroll up again on my notepad because who doesn't pay for Microsoft Word and has two thumbs? This guy. That's right. I really should. All right. So, moving on. Ben Thorp, a man doesn't show aggression to oh no, I think I've read that, haven't I?
Yeah, I think we did that.
Yeah, I scrolled up too far. This happens every once in a while. I said I'd get rid of these, like I delete them, but then I didn't. Yeah, let me scroll way down. Perfect. Dr. Akko, $5. There are obviously good and bad expressions of anger. Weightlifting is a good expression of anger. Beating up home. All right, that got me. I'm so sorry. All right, so sorry, Dr. Akko. You got super chat of the night. It's only $5.
Beating a what? Wait, I didn't hear the joke.
what
What was
was
the
it?
joke?
He didn't say it.
Gotta read it.
He's building up to it.
I'm building up to it. I'm so sorry. I lost it before I said it. There are obviously good and bad expressions of anger. Weightlifting is a good expression of anger. Beating up homeless people is bad. Simple.
Okay, that's fair.
True. That is based
Well,
on true.
I didn't
We all
expect to
can
read
agree with
that.
that.
Well, way to state that. All right, now let's just let me just wipe the tears in my eyes. All right. All right. Stay curious, $5. It's easy to tell that the mod doesn't care to control the convo when he said there will be Q&A 30 minutes ago and the debate is still happening. Wow.
Oh.
I mean,
ouch.
we wanted to keep going, you know?
They're coming after your personal relationships next.
You did get called out.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not too
Anybody
worried
hate
about
Ryan?
it. Yeah, I was just saying I'm a nice guy, but I you know, I think things have rolled along pretty good, and you know,
I think you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. I was going to say I appreciate that, and you know, as long as the conversation wants to keep rolling and everybody's engaged, we got 1,000 people watching right now, so I mean, you know, I'm not doing too bad over in my corner here. I'm having a good time hanging out and talking with James and whatnot. What are you doing in the live chat? That's right. That's right. Coming at you now. All right. $1.99 from DCA. Is Ben divorced? Oh my goodness. Sorry. This is a personal question.
That's
personal
okay.
Question. Ben,
Yeah.
I should have alerted you. I deleted all
No
the
problem.
other ones and I forgot to screen this before I started reading. So we can read it if you'd like.
No, yeah, and
is,
it's yeah. Go ahead.
is Ben divorced? His daughter and wife didn't say much.
His daughter and wife.
I'm not sure about that second part, but if you want to just talk about the first part.
Yeah, so I actually went through a similar circumstance where there was, you know, a kind of failure, I would say on my spouse's part because of prior psychological problems. And I did talk with Destiny about this a little bit because he comes from a Catholic background, but everyone's pretty much familiar with. There's another possibility other than divorce or like staying in a that's falling apart, which I think was Crowder's kind of point. And that is that you could explore whether at the time you took the vows that maybe there was something missing that you didn't think was missing at the time. And I think it's a much healthier option because then no one has to be blamed. And, you know, it's seen as a backdoor divorce, but that is not what it is. My guess is that's what happened here in the Crowder situation. And I think it can be a wonderful solution and a real solution that avoids the guilt and blame that you see worked out here. But both parties have to want to do it that way. I don't doubt that Hillary Crowder went into this marriage fully, you know, wanting to do. She didn't go into it to do this to him, but I think she lost. Something was missing, is my guess.
Do you think that it was like more of like a team effort?
What was?
Their marriage dissolving.
It could be on both sides, but something as fundamental. Yeah, maybe they both weren't ready. And I know that they were both married as virgins, or so they claim to be virgins. And there's a problem. Though I think that in many ways is good, right? You can understand it. It's like, you know, you two are bonding in a certain way. I think a lot of people go into that and they don't have enough support of a support network, of a way of working out things. And it can become kind of a torture chamber. Even a wealthy person, you know, and it kind of especially a wealthy right-wing person, they can't let the cracks show. You know, they can't say like, I'm having problems. You know, there has to be this facade. And I think a lot of times, you know, it just becomes hell. He said, I have a boot on my neck, you know, and I think they probably both did in some ways have a boot on their neck of just being so I don't think marriage is supposed to be a torture chamber. If there's something seriously wrong, but people have to be honest. And I think it could be that they're both dishonest. It could be that one, right, Kyla? It could be that one person's being dishonest and saying it's your fault.
True.
All right, let's continue on with our super chats, and yeah, you leave me alone in that super chat over there. I'll do what I want. I'm Nova Scotian. We're badass. All right, this one's towards you, Kyla. It's kind of like a personal comment as well. Do you want to read it?
Go for it.
It's a compliment. It says Kyla's blush looks so good. That is all.
Paste.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I was gonna say, always nice compliments. Ride for $10. Do Destiny and Kyla believe that a victim is abusive? Sorry. Do Destiny and Kyla believe that a victim is abusive when they fight back against their abuser? This video clearly showed Steven Crowder defending himself against his wife's abuse.
I think anyone. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say you can be mutually abusive. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have enough information here to say that's clearly what was going on, but it's possible to be.
Yeah, I think people need to be really careful about saying anything was really clear in that video. There's like some things that look pretty obvious of like being unhealthy, and then there's a lot of things that are going to be ambiguous. I don't know if it's clear to me that Stephen was just like the victim of abuse from Hillary.
All right, let's continue on because we got a lot of super chats still to read through. So Marie Woods, $2. Why is Ben? That's also a personal thing, but why he's asking why is Ben so fragile? So they feel like you've been fragile during the debate, Ben.
I don't have I don't know what they're referring to.
All right, we'll just continue on from there. I think they were trying to rile us back up again.
Well, if I can just say one thing about that, and I got in a discussion with Kyla, and this wasn't like anything that's contentious, but I think that sometimes men who express emotions, and clearly within this, like I think we all take it with a grain of salt, are seen as weak or fragile or womanish or these kinds of things. I think that's crazy. And I think that men who are emotionally expressive are healthy people. There are men who are less or more, keyed up emotionally. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being expressive emotionally, unless, it's sort of immature, like you're acting like a child.
Or abusive. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's continue on. Marriage causes divorce for €5. Stephen has lost his money, house, and kids in divorce. Hillary was asked to use an Uber. Who has really been used and abused?
I don't know if any of us have any information about divorce proceedings and how they're being finalized yet. That's still something that's being actively litigated, is my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding is in the article, at least, they talk about how she's been living in a townhouse separate from the main house. So if anything,
no, that was Stephen.
Okay, but that's fair. Regardless, it's not clear who's getting what possessions.
It would probably be half.
We have no idea. I don't know what pre-existing paperwork there was. I don't know what assets she brought into the marriage. I don't know how well off her family is. I don't know if she's been earning money or not. We have no idea. Right.
Prenups, yeah. What'll be the marital possessions?
Well, you can guess, but...
Well, let's continue on there. Scrolling up here. So, Vash Stampede for $5. Challenge question to Thorps. Grace Thorp. Can a person express anger calmly? We'll start with that, and we'll let you answer that, and then we'll complete the second part. So, to you, Grace, can a person express anger calmly? And if you could elaborate on that for our super chatter there.
I think you can express anger calmly, but you can also express it in a way where you're yelling and you're animated and you're invested. And I think the contentious thing is like that Destiny and Erudite are saying that's wrong, but showing it in a moderate way is right. And I'm saying, well, there's different ways to show it. Both are equally acceptable. And in different contexts would make sense.
Okay. So the second part of that was to you, Ben. So, Ben, how is Kyla lying? Provide proof, please, of your claims. If you want to remind the live chat when that accusation was made and why, we'll try to keep that quick. So do you remember what you accused?
She lied a few times or twisted things a few times, but
wait,
I don't
lie
remember
or
what
twist
they
things?
were. Well, that's an interesting point because I've had this. A lie can be a misrepresentation of something that is true, right? Like in the Garden of Eden, the devil says, "Surely you will not die if you eat of the fruit." Was he lying? Not technically, because they didn't die. But the most dangerous kind of lie, the worst kind of lie, is one which actually technically isn't just a total lie. Right? Even things like stereotypes, genocides are based on some kernel of truth about the group that you're talking about. And it's an exaggeration rather than an outright lie. Like you can't think of, I don't know if you can think of a stereotype where it's just an outright fabrication. It's going to be based on something. And then that's what's very dangerous though.
So are you walking back that I lied and you're saying now that I just was hyperbolic?
No, I would call those lies. The devil is the father of lies, the prince of lies.
All right. Well, I guess I should ask, is there any comment on that on your side, guys?
On what constitutes a lie, or?
Yeah, I was going to say, was there any other comments on that, or do you want to just continue on?
I don't think I have any comments on it.
All right.
You don't have any proof of me lying, Stephen? You want to go at it?
But I will say, if you take a lie as a fabrication, then you have not lied. I completely concede that.
Okay. All right. I was just making sure that we, got down to the meat of what the super chatter was.
I'm cleared of charges.
All right, excellent. Kyle James, thank you for your membership for 6 months. Awesome. You've been here almost as long as I have. $10. Ben, you and I both know that Steven Crowder wasn't abusive. He was a pansy little girl. If Steve was a real man like you, tell the audience how you would have properly dealt with his wife.
Yeah, that's interesting. If you say, so how should he have done it? I think he did a great job. I don't know. I think he should have been more suspicious that she was setting him up. But this is the problem with men. We're nice. We don't think that a woman, while we're working and building something for them, is trying to figure out and consulting with evil people like this Yashar Ali on how to destroy us. And they do that. And she, I think in this case, did do that. She set him up. She did that right in front of the camera. She timed it perfectly so she'd get alimony. And I think for a couple of years, she'd been cooking this whole thing up. And men generally don't think women are capable of that, and they are. Red pill.
I know. I think Erudite, this was kind of her point about 9D chess, but that's not really possible that you'd think about that stuff. But women do check out of relationships way earlier than men check out of them, before they're actually over, because I think it's kind of natural. Because women are contingent on men, once you realize a relationship is coming to a close, the woman generally checks out of it earlier and looks for another support, whether it's a man or whatever. So I do think it's quite possible that she checked out and was actively, whether super, super consciously or not, she was saying, I see that this is over and I'm making plans for the future. I do think that's quite possible.
There is some evidence of that, although I don't think he was accusing her of being, what's the term? Of sexually infidelity. But when if you read it carefully, if you watch it carefully, you'll see he says, the man that you see, the woman comes back. We have
no idea what was being said there. It's inaudible.
Okay, I'm saying
let's let Stephen elaborate. We gave a bunch of time over to that.
Well, I'm just saying that there's a vague line, when mothers or men come back to their mothers or whatever, there's a weird, but it's not captioned and it's really hard to hear their sayings. I don't think we can speculate on what.
But it does say the man that you see, and then when she says, I'll just say another piece of evidence. I'm saying when she says, oh, should I call a friend to pick me up? I think there's an implication there because he reacts so strongly to it. Is that a threat? And I think she's basically, it's hard not to read it as her saying, so you want me to call whatever the guy's name is to come pick me up? And I doubt, a pregnant woman, it's kind of inconceivable that she's going to be, someone in that state is going to be sexually, but still that there was a relationship that somehow connected with this Yashar Ali scumbag.
That could have literally just been, maybe she's talked shit to friends before about Steven Crowder. That could have been anything.
Yeah,
we have no
that.
idea.
Yeah, right. But someone who he's like, I don't want you spending time with this person, because maybe it's an emotional affair where this person is sort of fomenting her in her sort of victim mentality. You could see the narrative there, right? I mean, you can't dismiss that.
No, it's just it's a wide reach.
Yeah.
I wouldn't assume that's true. It could be. Maybe it's plausible, but I wouldn't just outright make that assumption.
Well, there are things that don't add up here. Why would he say I can't call my friends if you take the car? That doesn't make sense. But
maybe he means call his friends to go over. They're just mad. He's just saying random shit. He could have misspoken literally.
Well, I can't be here. He said I can't be here.
It could have been because of COVID. Maybe because of his surgery, he had to be maximally isolated for a certain amount of time, so he couldn't see friends or family.
But it's just weird.
No
it's just
idea.
Weird. What I'm saying is, you can read it in this way.
You could read it one way, to paint Hillary as this nefarious actor who is plotting 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
I don't really know what you mean, Grace, with women check out first. I don't know if you're talking about how women initiate divorces first. I'm not really sure what you're citing there as women always check out of relationships or consistently check out of relationships first. I'm not really sure where that's coming from.
I think it's generally true because women are contingent on men for, like, generally for financial support, that if they realize a relationship is going downhill or if they intend to end the relationship, they emotionally check out earlier so that they can emotionally and whatever else support, like, connect with somebody else to be their support. So that's why I would say when she's talking with him, at that point, it had gotten to that point. So he's still emotionally invested, whereas she's kind of like, you can see she's cold to a level where she doesn't even really get riled up. She's just like wants to get out of there, right? She's checked out. That's the point I was making. I think it's possible that she could have been in that place.
Yeah, I think that's true. Look for plan B. She's
Possibly,
look for plan B.
Like she was calm and highly submissive. I don't know if I would agree that she was like clearly checked out. She was avoidant. She was trying to get away, but I don't know if I would be like, you can tell that she was just like emotionally disengaged from the situation. I would say that that's like definitely not true. There's like definitely times where you hear her kind of like pleading and stuff like that it seems like she's like pretty emotionally connected to the situation. She's just maybe at worst highly avoidant and wants to get away from the situation.
The problem is we have no idea how these two normally resolve conflicts, so you have no idea how to read that. If you saw me acting that way in a fight, I could still be totally plugged in. If Melina was acting that way in a fight, she's probably 1 foot out the door, because Melina tends to be more emotional in fights and I tend to be more like I'll zone out or I'll be avoidant. So you have no idea in looking at like a person's reactions, like if they've completely checked out or not, because we don't know how they normally resolve conflict. So I don't think it's fair to say that like she's ready to run. No, you can't guess. You truly don't know. You have no idea.
Well, you guys felt free to guess, and Kyla called Stephen Crowder a piece of shit.
Because some of the behavior that he's exhibiting is clearly abusive behavior.
No, it isn't clearly. No, it isn't.
All right.
You already conceded that we won the debate, so why we should go rehash it?
My bad.
I forgot about that.
Several L's. We've got several W's over here. I'm sorry, guys.
Without any direct declaration from either side, let's continue on with our super chats because we got lots of them. Keep them coming in. I mean, nobody has said anything about having to go yet, so I mean, everybody seems to be having a good time. You can let me know. Yeah, all right. We'll continue on as we are. Psychor for $10. You guys are all misunderstood. They're not talking about abuse. They're talking about Crowder's abuse. When he's using his apps to persuade his wife. Biggest misunderstanding on modern day debate. Psychor.
Best.
Well, let's continue on from there.
No comprendo.
Yeah, all right. He's making jokes. It's fine. Brian Stevens, $2. Thank you so much. Sometimes it is warranted. Horrific. So when he says sometimes it is warranted, he's talking about violence. So I think he's quoting something that you said yep. So I think you got some thoughts there, Ben?
Yes. I know that people said a man should never lay his hands on a woman. Right? Now, would Stephen and Kyla both agree with that?
No, because now you're going to say, what if a woman is trying to murder all 70 of her children, or a woman is running on her way to push the button to fire the nukes to Russia? In that case, you should probably kill a bitch, okay?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so, I won't make that mistake again. Don't worry, I won't take any more
physically assaulting other people.
Yes, Stephen, if you're in a debate, maybe you shouldn't use terms like always and never.
True,
so
absolutely, because you might be debating the most pedantic motherfucker on earth. Don't make that mistake. I got it. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm here for you.
These are tips for you, Stephen.
Stephen,
Write them
we
down.
don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. You know, you guys have like difficulties with emotions. If I compliment Kyla, she says I'm a scumbag. If I correct her because she's been lying, she acts like a victim, and she goes, "Oh, I guess I've been exonerated." Why don't you learn how to behave like a mature person?
You're saying we guys, and then everything you said is targeted against me. It sounds like this is just between me and you.
Well, Stephen does his little thing like, "Oh, whatever you need from me."
Oh, sorry.
Let's try to
now Stephen's catching the strays.
Make our comments towards our other speakers who have respectfully chosen to be here tonight.
I appreciate that. They've given us a great opportunity.
Going back to the point,
in the live chat as well, and the speakers on the panel, we're going to do our best to keep our discussion about is Steve Crowder innocent, and that's what we've been talking about. So let's continue on with our super chats. I'm trying to copy and paste here as I go, everybody. So bear with me. Alan for $20. There's 4 layers. All right, you can all hear me. That's good. Alan, $20. There's 4 layers. What is said, what they mean, subtext, and context. A person can say, I don't love you, and it can sound like an attack or a genuine expression. I feel like this argument keeps jumping between those 4 layers. And to specify the 4 layers that Alan put in his $20 super chat, this is a $20 super chat, so we'll give it some attention here. 4 layers is what is said, what they meant, subtext, and context. Let's kick it over to Steven to start.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I guess it's hard. I can't tell with our interlocutors here, like how much of this needs to be explicitly laid out, because it seems like they want to dance between a lot of these different types of subtexts. Like if you're in therapy with a significant other and you're trying to work through problems and you're like, listen, I don't know if I love you anymore. That's a lot different than being in the middle of an argument, like, I don't love you anymore. Which is also a lot different than being in a serious discussion outside of therapy and be like, I don't think I love you anymore. All of these things are completely different. But in the context that it's being said with Crowder and his wife, it's not being said in a way to genuinely convey an emotion. It's not being said in a way to resolve conflict or anything. It's being said as an aggressive point of attack to try to trigger the other party because they're just looking to attack each other. Or at the very least, Steven Crowder's looking to attack Hillary Crowder.
I totally disagree with that. She goes, I love you, I'm committed to you. He goes, I don't love you. That's the big problem. You've never shown me love. You just, I don't exactly remember, but he says something like, you just say you love me, but you don't show it.
You don't do A, B, C, and D.
How is that him trying to, like, I think when we say you missed trying to hurt somebody, violence, right? How is that trying to hurt her? He's pointing out an issue in their relationship. He says that's the big problem. He's literally trying to solve a problem. I don't see how you could possibly say that's like a pointed attack to hurt her.
Wow.
So if I'm in a big fight with Nick, right? And Nick says, Kyla, I still love you. And I go, I don't love you. And I've never experienced love from you. Do you think that that's going to like feel good? Or do you think that might be like super hurtful for him?
Who cares what feels like? What if it's true?
Well, she was literally just talking about harm.
Yeah.
She was just talking about harm, which is about like feelings, right?
Well, can I ask you a question?
You're a loser.
Well, yeah, your feelings aren't the most important thing, Kyla.
Well, if you say something purposefully to hurt somebody's feelings, that's I would say that's wrong to do. But if you say something that's true that ends up hurting somebody's feelings because they don't want to, it's a hard reality, that doesn't make it abusive.
In that situation, did Steven Crowder sound like he was trying to communicate an uncomfortable truth that they needed to work through?
Yes, he did. Absolutely, he did. He didn't raise his voice. I mean,
still don't understand that if you guys think this, because you guys want to do this, if you want to think this, that's fine. But then why are you mad at Hillary for leaving? Why would you stay with somebody that doesn't love you anymore?
No,
because she needed to make sense of her situation.
Stop. I need you to answer that question. Why should she have stayed there? Why are you upset that she left?
I did answer it.
How is she made sense of this situation? He said he didn't love her, so she left. Isn't that what she should do?
She needs to there's a little more to it.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is.
What? He doesn't love her anymore. She should just leave.
Well, he's saying, okay, so is this abusive to say to someone, you say you love me, but your actions
We're not talking about that right now.
Oh, yes, we are.
No, we're not. He said, I don't love you anymore. So she should be like, okay,
and
cool.
then he said, then he clarified it by saying, you say you love me, and I ask you to do A, B, C, and D, and you don't do any of them. I think that is a perfectly philosophically astute point. If love does not manifest itself in action, but you just keep saying, I love you, I love you, I love you, that is not love, that is manipulation.
Sure, but why would you do
anything?
anything?
Someone to point that out is perfectly fine.
Sure, but why do anything for somebody that doesn't love you anymore? You should just leave. At that point, it's over. What is he going to try?
He's saying there's a major crisis here.
No, no. That's not a crisis. That's the relationship is over. I don't love you anymore. Oh, okay, fine. Then we're done. No. Divorce time.
You think relationships are, I mean, I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I don't feel love towards you, I think is what he meant. That's not the same thing as love.
Oh, okay. So now we're getting hyper subtextualizing everything. Okay.
Well, yeah, because if you define love as like
Steven,
wanting the best,
it's called interpretation. It's what we're doing.
If you say love is wanting the best for somebody else, I don't think he's saying I don't want the best for you. But if you interpret love as like I feel connected towards you and like we're working together.
Just so it's clear, we're not talking about what happened between Steven Crowder anymore. We're just like
I don't know what we're even
up stuff.
talking
We're just
about.
making up.
I wouldn't have a problem if he said, "I hate you, Hillary."
Maybe
I
mean
hate
in different
you.
contexts. Okay.
I wouldn't have a problem with him saying, "I hate you for what you are doing."
I'm going to be totally honest. I hate you is probably a less hurtful statement to a partner than saying I don't love you.
Well, you know what really sucks is someone saying I love you while they're preparing to destroy you. And I think that's what was going on there.
Okay.
Wasn't he talking
and
to the
playing
voice
to a
lawyers
camera?
first?
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
let's continue on with our super chat. All right, so let's scroll up. Brutally honest. That's kind of a personal attack. €2. Thanks for your donation. That's great.
Wait, who is that a personal attack on?
Towards Ben, and
okay.
we're not going to read it.
That's
3,000 GTV are for $5. What are Grace and Ben's opinions on interfamily relationships and the implication of that power dynamic? That's a strange question.
Inter-family? That would mean between families. Intra-family would be within.
I was going to say, if you want to just skip this one.
I'm sure they're meaning within families.
I think, yeah, they're asking what your opinion is on inter-family relationships. So
that would be between families. I don't know what that means. Intra-family?
I'm sure that's what they're talking about. Yes, they're probably not being pedantic about words. They're probably
I think
so. They're using words inaccurately, and then that's abusive also.
They're being very naughty by using words inaccurately. Yes, that's true.
I think what they're implying.
It's called the English language. You should respect it.
We can just skip this one because I think once again we're going into.
But I wouldn't know what it would mean. Intra. What are you talking about?
I would say what I think.
What is power dynamics really? Like,
I think what the host is trying to say is it sounds like they're making an incest joke. That's what it sounds like they're saying.
I will just say yes. That is what it sounds like they are trying to imply there. So we could just skip that because I don't think that's relevant.
No, we can skip that. F you for saying that. Whoever said that. And well, people for not pushing back.
Hold
on
on.
That.
We're not going to. We're just going to move past it. Thank you. Sidecore, $10. You guys are all misunderstood. They're not talking about abuse. They're talking about Crowder's abuse. We already read that. Let's move on. I might have copy and pasted that once or twice because I'm trying to keep an eye on this live chat because you guys keep putting more in there, and I got to keep copy and pasting them before I lose them because they escape me if I don't. All right. Kellyanne for $20. I have been married for 20 plus years and have never yelled at my wife or called her a name in disagreement. We have a fantastic relationship and screw like teenagers. Thorp's our relationship. I'm not going to read the rest of that, but they're basically saying they've got a great relationship and they don't think that you're representing relationships well. So you can comment on that.
That's cap. You've been married for 20 years and you've never yelled at your wife. That's not possible.
I think it's possible.
You've never raised your voice at the woman that you share your life with.
There are plenty of people that have relationships like that. There are tons of people that have totally boring and healthy relationships like that. Absolutely. And there are a lot of people that yell and have problems too. Just depends on the dynamic. Yeah,
there's different personality types. It's possible, but I doubt it.
Do you never yell at I would ask him, have you ever yelled at your kids either? Or that's also, you've never yelled at your kids because everybody yells at their kids.
There's lots of families that
different
just like yelling doesn't
styles. There's different cultures. There's different cultures.
Okay.
Remember, Grace, we used to go and see at the beach, we used to see sometimes the Guatemalan families. They just seemed very placid. They didn't seem...
Yeah, but sometimes they yell at their kids. Well, whatever.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they didn't mean that literally, but...
All right, let's continue on. €5 from I. That's a great Black Sabbath tune, by the way. It's very hard to find, but if you just type in the letter I in Black Sabbath, great song. All right, can the Pro Crowder team answer if they think Hillary is abusive in the clip and give a specific example?
Yeah, I mean... Well, I would say to me, she seems disengaged. She lies to him. She says she's committed to him, which is just a way of making herself look better and driving him crazy by not responding to the genuine problems he's pointing out by just saying pious phrases to make him feel like he's the bad guy and he's yelling at her when she wasn't committed, divorced him a couple months later. And I don't think she's necessarily recognizing what she's doing, but I would say it is abusive.
She never responded to anything that he said.
Yeah.
And then she accused him of abusing. How is he going to respond when she accuses of him? Stephen, this is abusive. What are you supposed to say at that point? What can a man possibly say?
So she disengaged, lied to him, accused him of abuse, and that's like clear evidence. Do you guys feel like it's clear or like how confident are you in this, like, percentage? I'm just not sure. And I'm not asking that condescending. I just don't know how strongly you think that she abused him.
100%.
Bam. Shut down.
Okay. Grace, 100% as well?
Abusive in the sense that you're yes, that in the sense that I don't think she's intentionally trying to harm him. Well, actually, I mean, I guess I actually do, because she was aware of the camera. So, I'm trying to be generous, but like, I do believe she was aware of that camera and saved that clip. So if you look at it through that perspective, then yes, it's abusive. She's trying to wind your husband up.
Being abusive?
Yes, in some ways, yes.
You just changed it. You said 100%. How sure are you that this was abusive? Now you're saying she's 100% abusive.
No, not she. She was being abusive, 100%. Was all of her activity 100% abuse? No.
Right. You believe
that's the clarification.
You believe that she was being abusive 100%. So like being disengaged, lying, and accusing him of abuse is sufficient for her to be abusing him, but him like saying, I'll fuck you up, I don't love you, and like being uncompromising isn't him being abuse. I'm not really understanding these two lines.
The answer to the question is yes, right, yes.
Within the context of her sitting there framing him, driving him crazy to make him look bad, and disengaging herself personally, and then using that clip against him 2 years later, yes, it's abusive.
Damn.
Okay, but him like being pressuring or like moving his body in ways where she's feeling physically coerced, or like being unwilling to compromise with her on anything, saying things like, I don't love you and you never show me any love, trying to pressure her to stay home when she wants to leave, not really being okay with her leaving, those things. Clearly.
Right, those are not abusive.
Not abusive.
Is there any example?
Obviously.
Can we think of an example of a man being abusive where he's not hitting the person?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you give me an example? I'm just curious.
Taking out your anger at somebody for something they didn't do, somebody else did to you. Like lashing out at them to take your anger out, something like that. There's obviously a bunch of examples.
So as long as the thing you're complaining about actually happened, you have carte blanche to express that any way you want, as long as you don't hit the person?
You mean having a disproportionate reaction? Yeah, sure, that's true. I told my son once I was in a stressful situation. He got a yo-yo from Toys R Us when it still existed, and it broke. And I told him to throw it out and throw himself out while he was at it. That's abusive, definitely. I apologized to him.
Why would that be abusive? 5
minutes later. Because I was just frustrated by the situation, and there was a lot of chaos. And I just bought him a nice yo-yo, and so I had my. It wouldn't have been wrong for me to say, like, why'd you break it? So, what happened? But, I was abused. So, sure. So we answered your question, but you guys never answered our question. Another win for the Thorps. It's been a 100% win.
W after W after W.
Yeah.
It feels like you guys have, like, basically Darvoed. I feel like actual Darvo. You're just Darvoing for Crowder in this case.
I don't know what Darvo is.
Well,
deny, accuse, reverse.
So we're abusing you now?
We're going to take a side
That's
step.
not what I said.
We have Stockholm Syndrome from
No,
Stephen
I said you're Darvoing for Crowder.
We're going to take a side step and keep on point here. So Doey Head, $5. Thank you so much for your super chat. Why does every conservative talking point can simplify to conspiracy? I think that's towards Grace and Ben there.
Well, I'm not a conservative, so I don't know.
Well, but I mean, yeah, me neither. But like, even if you say, okay, she wasn't conspiring to do this, even if you just look at it, just the video itself, I honestly see a man who's frustrated trying to communicate an issue he has with his wife, and his wife not responding to any of his questions, not getting emotionally invested, but just kind of repeating his name and asserting that she's going to leave. And I would say, that you don't have to necessarily say that she conspired to say that at the very least he's not being abusive by bringing up an issue in their relationship. That's not abusive.
Like, there was a point made about this, like, you guys know Fresh and Fit. Yeah. They took the most extreme take on this. We do not represent the most extreme take on this, because they're like red pillars, and I think they're just anti-female in some ways, but it's subtle. But they made a big deal about the edits and how she worked the edits. She didn't work the edits. I know there was a guy on your stream who saw that. It was just a clip. She didn't work, she didn't, that would be a conspiracy theory that was disproven. Right? We all agree that it had to do with the ring video having
Yes.
a motion sensor.
Yep.
Yeah, the security camera. Yeah.
So that seems like, because it was at exactly 30 seconds, you had your guy do it. And so.
All right. Well, let's continue on from there, and I will remind everybody in the super chat, there's 900 of you watching, and there's still only slightly shy of 400 likes. So, well, I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know if you're disliking this, but surely you agree with somebody here. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you like that Black Sabbath tune. I don't know. But surely you agree with somebody. So smash that like button and share this out to your contentious spaces so we can keep the conversation rolling. All right, Jerome Bentley for $10. Is the physical violence necessary in a marriage? Are there times where you must hit your wife outside of self-defense from physical violence? Like the times you hit mom and broke her glasses.
This is a fake account. That's supposed to be my son.
Yeah. Let's just respond to the first point. Is physical violence necessary
Respond
in
to
a marriage? Let's just cap it at that.
I would say, yeah, absolutely, it could be. What if somebody had implanted a bomb in your wife's arm and the bomb was about to explode and you had to smack her arm to like disarm the detonator? I would say that in that sense, you should probably use physical violence. Was that a good response, Ben?
Well, okay, I know you're trying to play a little trick with me. There are times when a man can give a woman a smack across the face because she's losing her mind, and it can reset her in a way that she needs to be reset. If there's an emergency she needs to deal with, if there's a plane about to crash into a mountain.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
The
save
plane and
you.
the mountain.
He
Okay.
needs to fucking get herself
You gotta
together.
fly the plane, woman.
You're the only one like a
capable of
pilot,
doing
yes.
it.
Well, do you agree with that?
Yeah, maybe she
There
used to
can
be
be
a
an
pilot,
emergency in
but she
which
got
she's
into
panicking
a
and
helicopter
she needs-
accident 20 years ago,
She's
and she's
amnesic.
not. Yeah, she didn't
She's
remember
amnesic.
how, and she's like, "I don't think I can do it." And he's like, "Wake up, Jane! You're the only
her
one." that
name
can
used to be
fly this-
Jenny.
Yeah, you're the only one that can
And she'll
fly
only,
this plane.
yeah, true.
So you
And she'll
agree with
only
me?
remember
Another
that
W
she was a
over here.
pilot. if you
Another
hit her.
You
W.
agree with me?
Yes.
Another W over here.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So let's not say a man can never put his hands on a woman, and a father can never put his hands on his children in violence, because that's not true. And it's stupid to say things like that.
True. There's a lot of planes out there that need pilots.
Stephen, why don't we engage sincerely instead of being snarky? Okay.
Because
Okay.
you're
I
giving
haven't
me
made comments
literally
about
the
your hair.
funny, the
I haven't made
dumbest.
comments about you wearing a
Because
t-shirt
when
to a
somebody
debate.
asks you
All
to
right,
slap
let's
a
just be
woman, they're
fair.
not saying, "Is it so she can pilot
Let's-
a plane?" In the course
just
of
be
normal
fair.
day-to-day life, well, you should force an answer. I want to hear an answer from that. Does he really think it's okay to smack a woman if she's not acting right?
I will
think there are
interject.
times when it is
appreciate
appropriate,
the
yes.
question. I appreciate the question, but I will say that everybody's been a little snarky tonight. But I think Ben just said that he thinks that's appropriate in some cases. So I'll let him elaborate on that. We'll kick it back to you, Stephen.
Yes,
you
there are
elaborate
times
any-
like that. They should be minimized, but there are times like that, and they're not as infrequent as we'd like to say. Now,
Are there
do you want me
situations
to say
outside of
something
plane
illegal?
crashing that
I
you
just
would
gave
think
you an
of?
example. Let's say there's a situation where, like, children need to be, taken care of in a certain way, and a woman's just freaking out, and she needs, yeah, I would call it a physical correction.
I can't think of a time where I'm like, "Mom, like, help your kids." My brain, I can't think.
Well,
of
you
any.
realize you're putting me in a difficult situation because you're telling me to advocate for something which is against the law. So,
you think
okay,
it's-
so you want to play games, we'll play games.
Okay,
The
if you
answer
think
is
it's a
yes.
difficult situation to be asked if you should hit a woman, that says more about your position than mine. But all right.
Well, everybody
because,
could. I mean,
because
it's
I'm
not
not
just
going to
for.
advocate for
Here's
illegal
one.
activity. But
Here's
we
the
all know,
only
yes,
situation
yes, yes.
Let's let
theoretically I can
Erudite-
think of. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
let's
try to
let
be good
Erudite
faith.
finish up this point, and we'll move on.
Say there's an intruder in your home.
No, oh come on. Don't even entertain this. This is so dumb, right? That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, if your wife is acting like a bitch, smack her across the face till you wake her up. That's what he's essentially saying, okay? Which is a fine
Yes,
position to have. Listen, okay, I'm pro hitting women sometimes too, so based, all right? Another W for the Thorps.
Thank you,
All right.
Stephen.
All right, let's just move on.
Sometimes
from
you just need a little reset.
Harkness loves you. $10. Question for everyone: if a family was running a restaurant and a parent, like a mother, yelled at her child for messing up food prep, that's not abuse, right? She's driving her employee hard, right?
Well, when It's an inside.
These are all
whatever.
trolls. That's trolls.
Yeah.
Whatever. Take their money and
It's different
whatever.
to whatever with a child than an employee, but whatever. Stupid.
Yes, it could be appropriate and it could be not appropriate.
All right.
Would you guys, if I could throw this over to Stephen and Kyla, do you respect a father or a boss who holds his kids to high standards and holds them to the same heights, him or her?
None of the conversation has at all.
Okay, I'm just asking, Stephen.
I'm not answering.
You don't have to
I'm not
feel
answering
like
because we're not
everything's a
talking about
personal
holding
insult.
anybody to a high standard. It's not a personal insult. No one is talking about holding anybody to a high standard. We're talking about issuing physical corrections to partners.
I'm just curious.
We can have a separate conversation about, or Kyla can answer. It's okay. I'm not here to talk. I don't know what that question has anything to do with. It doesn't resemble anything about any of these conversations.
Well, a lot of times a demanding boss or a demanding parent can be a good thing.
Demanding doesn't mean attacking somebody. That's the
Also,
opposite of a good
verbally,
leader.
how are you
just to be
demanding
clear,
except by demanding, verbally?
Authoritarian parents are like very well established to be highly harmful to, they're not even
I
talking
agree.
about smacking their parents. Having really, really, really high standards that are really rigid and you hold people to them tends to crush people. It's
I
pretty
agree.
awful. Yeah,
I agree.
so
But that doesn't mean you have to have no standards.
Obviously, I would never agree that a boss or a parent needs to hit their child to get them to meet expectations. And even outside of that, even the framework you're giving, empirically we know that authoritative parents are awful for children. They're
I agree with
not
you.
good for flourishing. So,
But that doesn't mean you can't hold high standards.
We should all hold high standards for everybody. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. So I don't even know what the point of the
Well, she
question is.
assumed because I didn't say authoritarian.
I didn't assume
I didn't
anything.
say, do you endorse an authoritarian parenting style? I said, do you think that it can be a healthy parent who holds his kids to high standards and also especially in employment where it's voluntary, if you're getting paid well, you should, belly up. I think there are
I think more of the
different
time,
styles.
it's probably not that healthy. Based on the way that you're framing it.
Okay.
All right, let's continue on. Thank you everybody for your super chats. If you want to keep them coming in, we've been going for 3 hours, but we're continuing on. We're having a good discussion as far as I'm concerned. We're keeping it as chill as we can, given the nature of this discussion. So, Mohammed for 550 Canadian. We're gonna skip that one. That's for Destiny. You might have seen it in the super chat, but we're just gonna skip it.
Wait, what's it about?
Not relevant. It's not relevant to.
Why, was it like an insult that you think I can't handle, or was it about something totally unrelated?
All right. Well, then I'll you know what? I'll read it, but I'm gonna give it the attention it deserves. Okay. She is a pregnant you Smurf. Regardless, Crowder is a better human than you, and that's an insult.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
There you go. I'm sorry, Mohammed. That wasn't a very respectful comment. I didn't want to read it, so we're going to move on. Stay curious, $5. Grace, do you believe anger is always justified regardless of if the other person doesn't understand how and what they did affected you?
Of course not. You can be wrong to be angry at somebody, either because of a misunderstanding or because you're taking something out on them. Obviously, right? We all know that. Or if they don't understand what they did to make you angry, that doesn't... You can't just lash out at them. I mean, does anybody disagree with that? It's obvious, right?
I think we all agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's continue on. Let's move on from there. Once again, try to keep our super chats related to the topic and not attacks against our speakers, but rather the things that they've said. Grace, do you believe, and this is from Stay Curious for $5. Grace, do you believe anger is always justified regardless of if the other person doesn't understand? Oh, I already read that.
Yeah, we just...
Let's move on. Yeah. Giving it far too much
I thought I was losing my mind there for a second.
Yeah, I was going to say, I gave it far too much drama for what it's worth. I'm trying to get rid of them as they come because I got far too many on this this notepad right now. You'll notch 517, $4.99 for each panelist to answer. What is your definition of emotional intelligence? So emotional intelligence, we're going to try to keep this quick. Grace, I'm going to hand it to you for 30 seconds.
I would say emotional intelligence is understanding and being able to control your emotions to a certain degree, but also knowing when it's appropriate to express your emotions and not lashing out at people and not bottling things up.
All right. Well, that was less than 30 seconds. We'll hand it over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, I would say it's understanding your emotions and being able to understand other people's emotions. So having some level of self-control and then being able to interface and communicate with others.
All right. Over to you, Ben. Emotional intelligence. What's that?
Yeah, yes, the same. Just being able to see your emotions in the light of reason and prudence, and then to exercise wisdom.
All right. And to close this out, not so erudite. Emotional intelligence.
I think
define
everyone
that
summed
as?
it fine enough. Yeah. Okay. I concur.
All right. Let's continue on then. All right. Good meme. New member. $25 Canadian. Question. When Grace was experiencing uncertain feelings with her dad, she went to her Discord maybe to bring it up. I don't know what that's all about. There's an extra part to that. It's kind of a personal question. Do you want me to continue?
I mean, sure, go ahead.
Why did she take a step back to evaluate instead of talking to her father directly? Why is a space there okay? Or why is space okay there? Sorry, on the channel.
Well, sometimes, me and my dad have a relationship. We do a lot of YouTube stuff together. Sometimes things get tense between us, and sometimes it's best to take a break and get some space and think about other things or ask other people to help you if you're, in a tense situation.
I would say
Get out a little bit.
Position that we are holding is not that a break is never a good idea. That would be a straw man.
Right. But I certainly would hope that I wouldn't use taking space as a power move to say, like, I'm leaving and I'll be back when I'm back, because I actually do help around the house with my siblings and stuff since my mom isn't here, so that would be a power move. So I don't think doing stuff like that is okay, but taking space is fine. Yeah.
All right. Let's continue on with our super chat then. Mr. Cool Dude. Mr. Cool Dude, you're very cool. 203 as well. All right, so $10. Ben seems to want to talk about Kyla way more than Crowder. I think they're bringing up the discussion from the other day, so we should move on from that just because we've majoritively tried to ignore that whole discussion. But I
think Kyla and I are friends. I don't
know if I would say that. That's
well,
okay.
I'd like for us to be friends, but you accuse me of stuff all the time.
Yeah, it's okay.
Because you lack maturity. It's fine. We'll work on it.
Frenemies? Can we call it that? Frenemies?
No, I think we're like acquaintances in the same space.
Well, we have a little bit of chemistry, and I'm not suggesting anything beyond just that.
I think it is definitely nerve-wracking to be around a pretty young lady in the same panel, for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. No, I'm kidding. All right. Let's continue on. All right, Griffin, $5. Do you think being chronically divorced gives you bad opinions? Or is that inconsequential to your takes? I'm not sure who that's for, honestly.
Yeah, I would think people who've been divorced many times would not be the person you're going to turn to for advice, but they also can have a lot of wisdom if they've learned from those things. So, obviously, you don't go to a homeless person and ask for stock advice.
All right. Well, let's move on from there. All right, let me turn my mic back on because I had a vicious cough just now. That almost went down the wrong tube. All right. Well, let's see. $5 from Straight Shot to the panel. Who does Zelda go to if Hyrule is in trouble? TOTK, 4 days and wake up, boy. All right, let's continue on. IG Burr, $5. Ben, if your wife was singing karaoke and went home, with him, what would you do?
Yeah, that's another personal troll.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems like a troll comment. I was gonna say any of these comments they don't seem like they make sense. We're just gonna move on. I'm so sorry. I appreciate you guys putting in the super chats. That's awesome. You can continue putting in super chats, but if they're gonna be just trolly comments, we're gonna just move on. So Sausage Lord, $1.99. Welcome to the Orbiters Club, Ben and Grace. I'm not sure what that means either.
Weird.
I think it's a reference to Destiny.
There's a contract coming. They get workers' comp.
Okay.
So far, we have 0 from it.
All right. Well, let's just hope. Let's just hope.
Bad
that's
boss.
understood.
Bad power dynamics,
Cool
really.
dude, Mr. Cool Dude, where are my shades? I'm so sorry. 203, $10. How is it personal to ask why Ben keeps quipping at Kyla?
Damn.
It relates to the current debate.
I'm sorry. I'm a heterosexual man. I'm sorry. Guilty again.
All right, let's just leave it
I'll
at
compliment Destiny. I love your blue hair, and you seem like a sweetheart.
Thanks.
Can
bud.
anyone compliment me, for fuck's sake?
Ryan, you seem like a terrific guy. I really love you.
I'm not supposed to swear. Oh God, I'm gonna get in trouble.
I think Grace is doing a great job.
All right, let's continue on. All right, so how is it personal to ask why? No. Mark, $5. Hey, Mark. She might be a manipulative a-hole for all we know. So might he. This debate is void of details unless you have Crowders in the room. Do you guys think that's true?
To some extent, we're all speculating. Yep.
Yeah, I think that both, although I know I'll be seen as a scumbag for saying this, I think that both Stephen Bunnell here and Kyla have been really good about saying that there's just a lot here that's speculation, and there's a way in which this can be, these are real people with real lives, and we should at least be aware that we're missing a lot of context. But I do think you can take guesses.
All right. Well, let's continue on, and we just copy and pasted another super chat that was way too big, and it messed up my whole note. So let me just minimize that. Timothy P. Southwick, $20. So we're gonna give this a little bit of attention. It's a big super chat. What business? What business is it of any of y'all's? I feel like he's from somewhere that I live now. That he's saying y'all all the time. What do they matter, y'all, personally, that you sit here saying whatever regarding them? You said that twice. So I'm going to read this again at the end of this because this is a little confusing and I want to surmise. Are y'all personally involved in their situation to be saying anything? So what business is it of any of y'all's? What do they matter to y'all personally that you sit here saying whatever regarding them? Are y'all personally involved in their situation to be saying anything?
I mean, they're public figures on the internet, and now this issue has been made highly public, so of course people are going to have opinions about it, right? That's kind of how it goes, yeah?
I think especially when an issue, we all, not all of us, but many of us have spouses, and so you can see, it's like Dr. Phil. Can it be helpful sometimes to see a dynamic that Dr. Phil is analyzing? Yeah, it can be. I think that Steven Crowder's impetus was not to do this, and his wife made it public. Should everyone continue to respect his wishes? I don't think that's possible at that point, and everyone knows it. And it can be fruitful. I think we've had a fruitful discussion. I think you guys have. Do you guys feel like your time spent with this makes you feel dirty? I think it's okay.
No, because I feel like we're treating him more like like the situation more like a model. We're not really saying these people. We're just saying kind of they're representing a dynamic that we're analyzing to see whether it's abusive or not. We're not really making moral judgments on these people themselves, because obviously we don't really know.
Yeah, I think so.
Any thoughts, Destiny or Eric?
Yeah, this is a conduit to explore what we think are healthy or unhealthy dynamics.
Yeah, exactly.
Erudite? Any thoughts?
Sure.
No? All right, let's continue on then. I won't put you on the spot like that. Let's scroll on up. and if I have to keep scrolling up, I'll have to keep making noises. David Drew, $10. Ben, do you know the difference between BDSM and spousal abuse in the form of domestic violence? Ooh, we're gonna have to put it on. We're gonna put it on PG-14 plus here for this one. Ben, do you know the difference between BDSM and spousal abuse in the form of domestic violence? And to you, Ben.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it at that then. That sounds about good to me. We won't get any more into depth. Justin Mead, $5. I just got here. What's the issue and who are the panel? Well, Justin Mead, we are discussing whether Steven Crowder is innocent in this most recent video of him having a discussion with his wife out on the patio. So, I got into the mic a little extra for the proximity effect. But that's what we're discussing tonight. And that's my super chat. So I'm going to back away and we're going to keep going. Accelerati, $2. Destiny and his sister Erudite did well tonight. So you guys have a fan. Thank you so much for that. Toxin _AV, $4. UN Geneva tweeted incest in peace yesterday. Not sure if that's relevant to what we're talking about, so sorry, but we're going to continue on. Jay for $4.99. Earlier, when Ben went on his schizophrenic rant about women, I don't like reading those types of comments, but earlier when Ben went on his rant about women that like being abused, can he clarify if he was talking about his wife or his daughter?
No.
All right, let's continue on. Brian Stevens for $5. Okay, I'll read it. It's a little spicy. I think it's towards the comment that you made earlier there, Ben. But I'm going to give you the floor to explain to Brian here what you meant. He said, "This is disgusting behavior. A woman is freaking out, in quotations, and you physically correct. There are times when you should slap your wife? You sicken me." I put the emphasis on there to show that there's a question mark. So I'll let you explain, Ben.
It's interesting. Sean Connery died recently, and he was old school, but I think we could all say that he was obviously seen by women as one of the most attractive men to ever walk the face of the earth. And he was pretty open, and it was partly cultural, that about this, that there are times when that is those things are fine, and women do generally understand that to be true. Yes, I don't know. There is something about that. Steven admitted it himself, right? And he's
I did not say that ever. I have never said that. That is not true.
Yeah, you did.
I did not say that women ever like, or there's something about a guy that hits a woman that women are enjoying. I've never said that.
You said, yes, you did. You said, I get it.
I said I understand why women like people that can be physically violent or physically assertive, to have the capability to do that. That's a lot different than hitting a woman or hitting women.
Well, okay, so you don't think there are any women who, in certain contexts,
that in certain contexts is doing some really heavy lifting there. In certain contexts, in like consensual bedroom related BDSM things, maybe, but that's a lot different than somebody that is issuing a correction to a woman. No, I don't think.
Well, we all know that's not true, so whatever.
Okay, well that's fine. Just don't say. I just don't want to be taken as somebody that thinks that you should hit women.
Yeah, but okay, but so there's one thing about saying like, I won't say this because it's going to get me in trouble, and there's another thing of saying like, I actually believe this, and so. Right. There are things you can't say.
You've made a lot of references to my platform, so I know that you know who I am. So I don't know why you would ever accuse me of not saying something, because I think it'll get me in trouble.
Well, I didn't say that.
That was heavily implied by saying, I know there are things you can't say. I can say whatever I want. I'm on kick.tv. Okay?
No, you can't.
We can start
you can't say whatever you want.
What do you mean I can't? What do you think I couldn't say if I believed it?
Well, you couldn't advocate for the overthrow of the United States.
I'm pretty sure I can. What do you mean? You didn't even choose a good example.
Okay, try it on your stream.
Wow, we should overthrow the
goes.
United States. Who wants to do January 6th next year? What do you mean?
Yeah, well, Stephen, I mean, obviously, if you say it like that, you're clean, but I'm not going to encourage you here to create a situation in which you're committing a federal felony, but you can do that on your platform if you want to.
Okay, thanks. So now we're going from unpopular opinion to advocating for crime? Yeah, I can't do illegal things. It's not illegal to say, I think if you need to hit a woman or whatever, you should do that as part of your...
Well, let's just say... Go ahead. You're married, right?
Yeah.
You're married, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you said certain things on your stream advocating for something, that could be used against you if things fall apart. I don't know what your situation is, but you have to be careful as a man because things will be used against you that you say publicly, even though everyone knows they're true. So that could be true of women too, but it's more true of men. You have to be really careful about what you say.
I don't mind you taking that position, but don't ascribe it to me because I don't agree with that and I don't believe that's true.
Well, you obviously do, but anyway.
Okay.
I mean, there are certain things by TOS you're not going to say.
No, you're just on fucking cope mode right now because you like to smack around women because it makes you feel like a big guy. Don't ascribe that belief to me, though, okay? I don't share that opinion.
You've made a bunch of assumptions
I
about
don't
me.
share that opinion. If that's your opinion, that's fine.
And I'm going to exhibit some dysregulation and say, shut your fucking mouth and stop saying that.
Mute everybody if we get into this. We've had a pretty good amicable discussion.
Just because you lost, it's not my fault.
We're not going to have any of this. I'm going to say that right now. So I don't want to indiscriminately start muting people. So we're going to try to keep our comments related to the discussion and not our speakers. That is our last warning for that. So, good meme, new member for $5.50. Can a wife ever hit her husband to snap him out of it? In quotation. Is it okay for him to retaliate if she does? Same question, reverse roles.
Yes, absolutely.
Any comment from the other side?
You shouldn't be hitting your partners. It's not a good way. It's just never a healthy way to resolve. Yeah, I'm sorry, Erin. I give your opinion because I'm sure we disagree on this. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, women can abuse men unequivocally at any level as much as they would like, and that's based. And it's part of the revolution. But men must be soy cuck losers to take all forms of any sort of physical or emotional interaction from women. Of course.
That does sound like your philosophy.
Yeah, I reject the premise of both of these questions. No, there's no good reason to hit your spouse to reset them or wake them up. You don't need to press reset.
What about children? Can you ever hit children?
I think there are times where a physical correction can be issued if you're in a public area. It's like a dire situation or whatever. For instance, say you're in church or you're in like a store or whatever, and a kid is being incredibly crazy or whatever you need to do. I think that there are times that it's probably understandable. But like in the household, almost never. Delayed punishment, I think, is sociopathic. So never like when we get home, I'm going to do this to you. I think is insane. Yeah. But I would say that
But do you think there's leeway in that? Like different people could have different views, or is it like
different people can have different views about the Holocaust? That's what a meaningless question. Yeah, different people can have different views about things, but
okay. So do you think there's no there's no like sort of spectrum, different cultural approaches? Different cultures.
Yeah, there's tons of different cultural approaches. I probably disagree with a lot of them. No, I don't think that. No, I'm pretty sure that the research is pretty unambiguous.
So only
about,
your philosophy is. So there's no. Okay, so we all have to absolutely agree with.
I'm sure there are cultures that disagree on rape, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say I disagree.
Well, like
with those
say the
cultures.
entire continent of Africa disagrees with you, so they're wrong.
Then I would say, yeah, they're wrong. True, I would say that. I'd be very brave in taking that position. Yeah,
and that's not problematic for you, as.
Couldn't it be that different cultures need different levels of discipline with their kids?
No, I think we're all roughly come from the same genetic stock and the same biological foundation. We all roughly work the same way. Yeah.
Okay. So you impose your ideals on the entire rest of the world.
I didn't say I impose my ideals on them, but I might judge them by my ideals. I think I'm within my rights to do that.
Well, the vast majority of civilizations throughout history have had a degree to which that's seen as normal.
The vast majority of civilizations throughout history also practiced war, capturing women, raping them, and had some form of slavery.
Right, as does ours.
I don't think we generally approve of raping women anymore, and I don't think we generally do the chattel slavery thing.
And neither did they.
Well, okay. Okay, based.
Do you know the origin of honeymoon?
Uh-oh, is this the prima nocta thing?
The king thing?
No, it's the original Viking honeymoon.
The leader goes in first, right?
No, it's where once you steal a woman, you basically take her home and you rape her for at least 30 days to get her pregnant. And if she doesn't get pregnant, she's freed. But if she does get pregnant, now she is part of your household.
Yeah, okay, so you guys are a little bit immature. You don't have a great grasp of history. I'm not saying that the past is perfect, but you guys seem to think we're so far ahead in progress that we can just mock everything which came before us, and that is highly immature.
That's how we approach history.
I would say that. Yeah, there are a lot of people. I would mock people that thought it was okay to own slaves. I would mock people that thought it was okay to do pogroms against Jewish people. Yeah, there are a lot of people in history that I would say. I'm glad we've made progress away from a lot of the things we've done in the past. Yeah, I would say.
Right, and your idea of progress is that men and women in their marriage have sex with random people whenever they want to. That's progress. That could be questioned.
True. Well, that's good. Ask questions. What would you like to know?
I have asked you questions about it. Doesn't make any sense.
Oh, okay.
Let's continue on because it's not incredibly relevant to what we're talking about tonight.
Poor Ryan.
And no, it's fun. I was going to say, we have moved on from that topic, it seems, but this is good. Same cloth, $2. Grace, can you define a healthy relationship?
I would say we're like romantically, if two people love each other, want the best for each other, can communicate, and that can take different forms. I mean, doesn't everybody? I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a very broad question.
I completely
Healthy
disagree.
communication.
I completely disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, it's oriented towards sex.
True.
Well, he said
You
relationship.
described a friendship. Oh.
Well, he said relationship. I wasn't sure. Oh, I guess I did say romantically.
It is a friendship which also involves uniquely sex and therefore children and all the rest. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Within marriage, it said relationship. I don't know.
Well, even a relationship, even a romantic relationship is oriented towards that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you disagree.
What does sex have to do with whether the relationship is healthy or not?
You mean a sexual relationship?
Yes.
So she's just saying a healthy
So
relationship.
you're saying what does sex have to do with a sexual relationship?
Yeah, people were
Okay,
asking what is a
that's
healthy
legitimate
relationship. So
What does that have to do with being healthy?
Yeah, so like is that like your primary marker that what people are fucking, or what is the? I'm trying to figure out what your plug-in to that was. Because I thought the donut question, Ryan can remind us, wasn't the donut question like what makes for a healthy relationship?
That's pretty much the entirety of it. Yeah.
So is it just if they're having sex, or?
Well, it depends what you mean by
just
relationship.
They just asked
They just
if you
said
can
relationship.
define, yeah, I was just say, can you define a healthy relationship? So, well, since everybody's had a chance to speak, we'll let Stephen finish up, and then we'll put it over to NotSoErudite to.
Well, I wanted to hear Ben and Grace's answer to that. I'm curious.
I understand that. Just everybody's gotten a chance to talk, so I'll let you finish what you, Stephen, would define as a healthy relationship. We'll let Erudite define that, and then we'll kick it back over to the other side, and we'll keep the conversation moving.
I would say probably the one where you don't feel the need to issue physical corrections to your partner.
Snark.
All right, and not so.
I agree with Grace. I think Grace did a good job of defining a healthy relationship.
I was defining it mostly between. I mean, I know I said romantic, but when I was thinking of it, I was thinking of like two friends or
I
like
think
just two
sex
people.
determines if something's healthy or not. I
don't think
everything
yeah.
you defined is what's going to be healthy between a man and a wife. Yes, it is true that they're also having sex, but what is healthy between two friends is also usually healthy between a man and his wife.
True.
Yeah, I
think
believe that.
yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
It's primarily a friendship, but it has obviously a different element.
Like the hitting the person if they're wrong part.
Oh, Steven, will you stop? You're just obviously giving yourself more L's. You're
He's
obsessed.
sulking. He's
You
sulking.
know, they said orbiters. Steven, you're our orbiters, buddy. So start spinning, buddy. And so is Kyla, obviously.
You're spinning. You're spinning.
Yeah,
out
you better
L's, left
stay in
and right.
orbit. Don't go flying out of the solar system, guys.
All right. Well, before we get into any cosmic speak, because that's the name of my band, one of my bands, anyways. It's Cosmic Breach. But the main band I've been playing in is Light and Shade. But I don't want to get too pluggy. even though I've done that before because I'm a big Led Zeppelin fan and I love singing. But we're going to continue on, and I'm going to let the live chat know that we are going to wrap things up pretty soon, simply because we've been going for 3.5 hours. We only have a few super chats left. I mean, I don't know if everybody's good to keep having the conversation if we have more super chats coming in.
I'm okay for a little while more. This is a fascinating conversation to me.
All right, if everybody's having fun as far as our panel's concerned, it's 12:36 here. My kids are in bed. My wife is, sleeping elsewhere because she's awesome and allows me to do this type of thing. I should say that because she'd rather be here in the bedroom, but you can't see it because I've got this new fancy background.
That's great. I thought you were 12 years old.
Oh, excellent. I was going to say you thought that, but I was going to say I'm soon going to be 30 and I
Really? You look young.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, let's continue on. And once again, the super chat. You want to keep this going? Keep the chats coming in. We've only got so much to talk about. So if there's something you think our chatters have missed, well, let's get it in that super chat and let's get it fleshed out. Cookie Blunster. Well, that sounds a little aggressive in itself. $10 for Ben Thorp. How is Hillary's situation being covered from leaving home no different than when Ben's physical attempt to coerce his son, who was on
This
crutches?
is another one of these.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
fine. Go ahead. If people want to hear it, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if this is something that people are talking about in your space, I mean, it might give you a chance to kind of talk about it, but we can just skip it if you want.
Well, Destiny's talking about it in his space as well.
Did you want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to talk about this and kind of help with the super chat?
Sure. But I don't know what the question was. How's it different than something else? My son?
Something about being coerced from leaving home.
Well, Hillary wasn't coerced.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that point because I don't want this to get personal. Once again, in the super
it's fine.
chat,
I just don't think your audience is going to be that interested, but they may be. I don't know. Destiny's blowing us up.
You can talk about anything you want to right now. But I was gonna say if it's something that if you think that I was gonna say obviously the super chatter was kind of leaning into, I think maybe, I mean, I haven't seen too much content from either side, but if that's something that you'd have to know a fair amount of lore. The lore. All right, I like that. I like that. Well, that's a great way of phrasing it. Well, if you want to talk about it, we can. If we want to move on, we can do that as well.
I didn't even catch the question. I mean, I'd be inclined to just move on, but.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, let's see here. So, Ivory. We're gonna move on from that one as well. Once again, let's try to keep it civil, everybody.
If I can take a minute, in order, like, so that I don't seem like I'm obfuscating, you're welcome to come to my channel, which is Ben Thorp without an E. And I have AKA Abel, ABEL. And I also have a Discord that's called the same, right, Grace? Mm-hmm. Ben Thorp, AKA Abel. Grace has her own channel, Grace Thorp, AKA Joan. And she has a Discord, Grace Thorp. Is that right? AKA
it's
Joan?
Gracie. It's in my about
Gracie
section
Goose.
on my,
okay, and you're welcome to contact us. I think we're in the descriptions below. Her mother also has a channel called Thorpa Tokos and a Discord, and her brother has a Discord also. So you can contact us, and we're happy to answer these sorts of questions. And we are also streamers, so. Well,
we will definitely let you plug that. And with that being said, NotSoErudite, where can everybody find you? Since we aren't at our closing statements quite yet, but where Ben just took that opportunity to tell everybody where he's at. Can you tell us where everybody can find you?
Damn, I'm in such snark mode.
It's okay, be snarky about it.
I was going to say in your mom's bedroom. Where you'll actually find me is YouTube, Kick, Twitter, kind of all the basics. NotSoErudite. That's spelled Erudite, and it's all one word. So if you like spicy debates and base takes, come on over.
All right. And what about you, Stephen?
YouTube.com/Destiny, Instagram.com/Destiny.
All right. Excellent. I think everybody's been properly plugged there. What about you, Grace Thorp? Do you have a separate channel of your own as well?
Yeah, it's Grace Thorp, aka Joan. I stream a lot. I have panels and stuff. I do reactions and dances, stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
We're also, while we're plugging, we're going to have a post-debate on the Tom Foolery Show, to which everyone's welcome. And we have sort of, well, I'm not going to say definitely secured Milo Yiannopoulos as a debater, but we're going to rehash this in a three-way debate, positive, neutral, and negative, after this debate, if we don't die of exhaustion.
Yeah, so Tom Foolery Show on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. And to the live chat, if I've seen a couple people, or maybe it's the same person asking why I'm not reading certain super chats, is because they're just insulting things to the people that came out here to speak tonight. And we appreciate everybody who came out here to speak tonight, regardless of whether you agree with them. So I warned you of that at the beginning. So we appreciate anybody who puts money into a super chat, but if it's attacks against our speakers, that's for you. All right, let's continue on. So
we're happy with attacks. Just long, complicated questions about lore are difficult.
Something like that, right? Grace, what do you define as red flags in a romantic relationship? That's from Same Cloth for $5.
I think she just left.
Oh, she just
Can we hold
left.
it?
Oh, well, we'll just wait for her to come back and we'll ask a different question. It seems like most of our questions are to both of you, so maybe we should wait.
He's coming right back. He just got my own.
It's all good. For Ben Thorp, $10 from Cookie Blunsta. How is Hillary's situation?
Good question.
My bad. Did I? Oh, sorry.
I asked about red flags. Red flags.
What was it?
What are red flags for you?
Red flags?
In a relationship is what the question was.
I would say if somebody's lying to you, if they're hiding things, if they don't really want to talk, if they get distant, if they lash out at you when something else is wrong in their life, that kind of stuff. Pretty basic.
All right. And the next super chat that we had is for Ben Thorpe. How is Hillary's situation?
Was that a question? How is Hillary's situation?
That's for Ben, yeah.
Is that a question?
That's a serious question?
I think so.
What is it? That's not a full sentence. You're missing words. How is Hillary's situation?
I think they're trying to get you guys to fill in the gaps there, but we can just move on if that's lacking too much context.
It's just incomprehensible.
Is not good. Is much sad.
It's not good, is much sad. All right, well, let's continue on from there. Let's see. $5. Everyone head to the Samoose channel. Yeah, we won't read the rest of that. Once again, people, keep it civil in the live chat. $11 from Nina. Ben and Grace in the Herd/Depp trial. Depp testified that he'd removed himself from fights before those got physical in order to de-escalate the situation. Was he being abusive by doing that?
No. But I would, yeah, I mean, there's a difference between removing, I would say if your fights are getting to the point where they're going to get physical between a man and a woman, the relationship is almost guaranteed to be over. Like, if it's going to get violent. But yeah, you should remove yourself before it gets to that point. I would say. That's different than removing yourself because you don't like the conversation anymore or because you feel cornered or you want to use it as a power move. But of course, the context matters.
All right, excellent. And I've rechecked the super chat, and it doesn't look like it's too pointed here. It's just relating to the situation about domestic abuse, I think. So, Ivory for $5. Grace, is it a good idea for a family member to stay with an aggressive family member if they threaten to put a fist through the family member's head?
I know what they're referring to. Depends if they're joking around or if it's serious. If it's serious, then no, that person sounds violent.
Okay. All right, let's continue on there. Stay curious. Can we go back to talking about Ohama Beach? JK. I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about my shirt there, I don't know.
I brought up Omaha Beach, which is the landing of the Allied forces in France.
Okay. I was going to say, I thought they might be talking about my Cosmic Breach shirt. I was going to say, if you want to elaborate on that, you can go ahead. But they did.
But I think they were just kidding.
Yeah, they did put just kidding. So we can continue on. Hi, _. I'm Date Mike. Is the name of the super chatter. $10 to the Thorps. Thoughts on my bratty sis and channels like that?
My bratty sis?
Yeah. Has anybody seen that, or I'm not sure what that is.
It's a porn site. It's a troll comment.
Jesus.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. I was going to say that might.
Oh, I do have a point about that. You mean that's about incest?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I don't know the background here, but Stephen, you've talked about this issue. I think. Is that a troll that told me that?
Nope. I love talking about incest.
Okay. So and
okay.
You're just saying, like, seriously.
Go ahead.
Right? Like, it's an interesting topic, or is that a joke?
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah. Okay. And I do think that the fascination, because that's a very what is it? Like, that's a very popular category on, within porn. And I think that COVID had something to do with intensifying that. I think it's interesting. I'd love to have a talk with you about it sometime. And I understand the implication, but I do think it's interesting.
Okay.
Now that you're an orbiter.
Yeah.
All right.
A Thorbiter.
All right. So where we are at the end of our super chats, unless we get anything last minute, we are going to close out. So for closing statements, we are going to do a minute for each of our panelists here, where we've gone through all of our super chats. I would say where we are right now, we should start with Grace. We'll let you start with your 1 minute closing.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, what we came here tonight to debate is whether Steven Crowder is innocent, I believe, of being called abusive or an abuser. I think our opposition essentially brought up that he was controlling, which we proved he was not, that he was unwilling to work together with her, which he actually was the one who wanted to have the conversation with her, and she was the one leaving and disengaging, that his tone was derisive, and they gave for examples that, telling her that the only way out of this bad situation was discipline and respect was derisive, when in fact that's perfectly fine to say to somebody, especially if they are failing you. They said that he was spiteful by telling her things that she was failing at, which is, it's not spiteful, it's just a harsh honesty, harsh truth, which you owe to your partner sometimes. And, I don't think they would say he is an abuser, but that he displays abusive behavior. Then that they would say that's definitely true, and I would say that is absolutely not true. He is a frustrated man whose wife is disengaging, winding him up, and then later saves the tape of this argument and uses it against him to attack the father of her children and the man she married 9 years, she was married to for 9 years, to hurt him personally. So not only is he innocent of abusing anyone, misusing or mistreating him, her, but it was also abused by his wife, saving this conversation. So, Steven Crowder, if you're out there, I think it's terrible that you're being attacked by your wife. She shouldn't do this to you. Maybe it's not her fault, but you are being publicly attacked on the deepest level. She's trying to wreck you, and I think you need some feminine support in your life, so let me know.
All right, let's kick it over to NotSoErudite to have their closing remarks here on the conversation that we've had this evening.
Yeah, my
Your
position
closing
is...
remarks, Erudite?
Yep. My position's the same. I think 3 minutes is woefully insufficient to make many claims about the nature and dynamic of these two people's relationship. I think it's also important to point out that nobody actually cares about these two and their relationship. It's just a talking point. I think in this video, Steven Crowder looks bad. The problem is that might be the purpose in the video. It probably is to some degree. The issue is just because it might be the purpose in releasing the video, it doesn't mean that Steven Crowder wasn't awful in his relationship. The problem is that there's so much necessary required context. It is hard to know everything, and there's a lot of ambiguous statements made between the both of them that nobody has context for. I think it is better to probably wait for the divorce trial to go forward. If more things get released publicly, you'll be able to weigh in more clearly. But at this point, we have a 3-minute video, which is woefully insufficient for much. The end.
All right, over to you, Ben.
I would say that my position on this issue is part of a larger nexus of positions that I would say I would call being a centrist edgelord. As a Catholic, on the one hand, of course, traditional marriage is a healthy thing, one man, one woman, and their kids. However, especially in our times, the reality is that a lot of people, for various reasons, bring a lot of baggage. There's been a breakdown of the family. So a lot of people get into want to do the traditional thing and can't actually live it out. In our society, the churches, people on the internet need to be much more open to the possibility that a lot of times people don't necessarily go into this with enough to follow through. And I especially appeal to women, including Grace's mother, who is watching at this time, to say, we do need to find a way without blaming the spouse for there to be a resolution. And there can be a resolution. It can be okay to get over your head, to find yourself in a situation that's overwhelming, and you can't just walk away and blame the other person. And there needs to be much more healing. I think divorce is a terrible curse, and I don't think we need to do it. So, and also Steven Crowder, give me a call.
All right, let's kick it over to Destiny to close us out for 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the behavior was clearly abusive. I think that our two interlocutors here have a pretty insane standard for what they would consider abuse. I would say you have the right to walk away from any conflict at any given point in time if you're like you are emotionally dysregulated or your partner is emotionally dysregulated. And anytime you find yourself in the presence of somebody else that is constantly making you feel uncomfortable, constantly making you second guess whether you are feeling okay or not, and is constantly forcing you to take their aggressive behavior and reframe it in a way that makes you okay with it, even though you're not, I think is a surefire sign that you're probably within some type of dynamic that you not only can take a break from if you need to, but you have every right to take a break from. So I think that I didn't hear any adequate reasons given why it was so evil for Hillary to say she wanted to take a step back, other than to constantly pontificate about some situations related to Crowder and his wife giving up that we were never really given any more information about.
All right, you guys heard it here first. Right, is Steven Crowder innocent? This is our debate on Modern Day Debate. Thank you, Grace Thorp, Ben Thorp, NotSoErudite, and Destiny for being here. Everybody in live chat, thanks for hanging out and for your super chats. We will be back. And once again, thank you all for attending this debate. And have a good night, everybody. See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steven.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, everybody.